Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. A few answers. Ranmasautom 103 asked a few questions. Here is my answers. I know I called it Camellia, because it is that. They learned about the crescent moon earlier. Naruto used it to make his first kill. I'm leaning towards having Yondaime Naruto's father, yes. His mother. I'm not sure. She's dead anyway though, but the jury is still out on that one. No, he won't have a bloodline limit. He has Kyuubi, that should be enough. Okay, that's all. Enjoy the next chapter. Ino looked up as the shop bell rang, indicating someone had entered the flower shop. She smiled when she saw it was Tenchi and Haku. They smiled back and towards her. She could see that Tenchi was slightly struggling to process all the smells. Not surprising, since it was a flower shop. They reached the counter and Tenchi smiled at her. Ino, what are you doing until the Chunin exams? He asked and Ino pouted. Wait for the lazy excuse of a father to teach me something. She said and Tenchi laughed. He then frowned. Ino wondered what he was doing, but then a pulse of chakra came from Tenchi. He smiled. Ah, I got it. I'm starting to be able to use the chakra radar without hand seals, although only when I'm standing still. Now let's see. Tenchi said and frowned again. Another pulse and he walked over to the curtain behind the counter. Reaching up, he knocked on the wall next to it. Yamanaka-san, he called. Ino's mother came out from behind the curtain and looked at the ninja in front of her. She knew he was Ino's sensei, but not that he was blind. Ino, is this Tenchi-san? She asked and both Ino and Tenchi nodded. But you never told us he was blind. Only he was injured. Ino's mother said and Ino blushed. I forgot. She said and Tenchi chuckled. It doesn't matter. Yamanaka-san, I have a request. Tenchi said and Ino's mother looked curious. What is it, Tenchi-san? She asked. If it is possible, could I not be excused from working in the flower shop for the rest of the month? I am going to train her for the Chunin exams. Tenchi said and both Ino's and her mother's eyes widened. You are? Ino asked and Tenchi smiled towards her. Of course. Sakura and Naruto have other senses, so I can focus on you. That way I can still study while I train you. Tenchi said and Ino practically bounced with eagerness. Ino's mother smiled at her daughter before turning to Tenchi. That can be arranged. As long as I can get a request from you Tenchi-san. She said and Tenchi smiled slightly. Forgive me, but there's not much I can do anymore. He said and Ino's mother shook her head. Oh no, I just want you to train Ino-chan as well as possible. That's all, she replied. Tenchi smiled and nodded. Deal, he confirmed. So, what do we do first? Ino asked eagerly. Tenchi and Rin stood opposite each other in a training area. Tenchi smiled at her. You are going to learn Naruto's favorite. He said and Ino's jaw hit the ground, while Haku smiled in an amused manner. You mean the Kage Bunshin? But isn't that a kinjutsu, and requires a lot of chakra? Ino asked and Tenchi nodded. True, but the reason Kage Bunshin is forbidden is because you split your chakra evenly among the clones, and if you aren't careful, you end up with too little chakra to live on. But I have faith that you can handle it, he said, but Ino looked a little skeptical. Okay, to make a Kage Bunshin, you form this seal, Tenchi said and formed a cross with his index and middle fingers. Then it's like making normal Bunshin, only you divide your chakra between yourself and your clone. Ino nodded and frowned while forming the seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, she called. You summoned Kyuubi, Jiraiya yelled, while trying to contain his bladder while faced with the strongest demon in existence. He isn't very brave, is he? Kyuubi asked Naruto, who grinned. He wanted to see if I could summon, and I did. But I think you should go back, before someone sees and senses you. Naruto replied. Kyuubi sighed and looked like he didn't want to go back to his cage, but Naruto dispelled them, sending a grumbling Kyuubi back to the seal. Jiraiya was visibly shaking, and pointed a finger at his young student. You can, he stammered before shaking his head, clearing his head. Can you control him? He asked. Hell no. Kyuubi shouted inside Naruto's head. Nope, but he won't do anything bad. If he did, I could kill him and take all his chakra. Also, if he harms me while I summon him, he is only harming himself. As long as I let him kill my enemies when I summon him, he's nice enough. Naruto explained. Snort listened to him, sounding so secure and comfy. Damn this seal. Damn you Yondaime, Kyuubi growled, making Naruto mentally roll his eyes. Shut up. I'm trying to talk to Ero Sennin Naruto. Well, since you already know how to summon, I guess I have to teach you something else. Jiraiya said, but Naruto quickly shook his head. No, can I sign the contract for the frogs, please? Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at him with a puzzled expression. Why? He asked. Tsunade made a bet with me. If I could summon the frog boss in the Chunin exams, then I'd win. Naruto said and Jiraiya chuckled. Flat Chest still hasn't gotten over her habit of gambling, huh? Jiraiya said, confusing Naruto. Flat Chest. Tsunade. She must be the farthest thing from that I have seen. Those things look like watermelons. Huge watermelons. Naruto said and Jiraiya got a dreamy expression. A bit of drool escaped his mouth before he shook his head and cleared his voice. She wasn't always so well endowed. By the way, how old do you think she is? Jiraiya asked and Naruto thought for a bit. 20-something. Naruto asked and Jiraiya chuckled. Nope. She only looks that way because she is hiding behind a genjutsu. She is actually in her 50s. Jiraiya answered and Naruto got a shocked look on his face. She's a Basan old woman grandmother, then, Naruto said and Jiraiya howled with laughter. Yeah, you tell her that. Anyway, come here kid. Jiraiya said and summoned the frog he danced on when he was introducing himself. Only this time the frog had a scroll in its mouth. Take the scroll and sign it. Make sure you summon Gamabunta and win the bet, okay? Jiraiya asked and Naruto nodded before unrolling the scroll. He saw that Jiraiya had signed it, and next to Jiraiya was a name that was vaguely familiar to Naruto. Yondaime. Why does he? Naruto began but Jiraiya cut him off. Ask you sensei. Tenshi. Ask Tenshi. He said and Naruto just shrugged before signing his name next to Yondaime. Okay, try to summon Gamabunta. Jiraiya said and Naruto nodded, performed the seals and bit his thumb before slamming his hand on the ground while thinking of frogs. A small puff of smoke and a small frog appeared, well small compared to the one Jiraiya summoned. It still was bigger than the normal frog. It was orange with a blue jacket. It raised a flipper and waved at Naruto. Yo, give me a snack if you want me to do something. The frog said. Not bad for a first try. Nice to see you, Gamakichi. Jiraiya said and the frog, now introduced as Gamakichi, waved at the man. Yo pervert, he said and Jiraiya sighed. No respect. He mumbled for himself. Hey, the little guy knows your true self, Ero Sennin, Naruto said and Gamakichi laughed. Ero Sennin, oh that was good. Pops will love to hear that. He said and Jiraiya huffed. Naruto was actually trying to summon him now, so if you'll just shut up and try again. The white-haired man said and Naruto nodded before repeating the process and slamming his hands into the ground, putting as much chakra into the as he could. No, Naruto called and a bigger cloud of smoke came. When it cleared, Naruto stood on a huge frog with twin swords on its back. Who summoned me? The frog asked and Naruto jumped down on the frog's nose. I did. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto called and the frog studied him intently. Uzumaki huh? Nice to meet you Naruto. If there wasn't anything else, I'll go now. The frog said and vanished in a puff of smoke. Ah! Naruto yelled while falling to the ground. He landed with a bang, Jiraiya and Gamakichi wincing in sympathy. Ouch! Jiraiya said and the frog nodded in agreement. Is he alive? Gamakichi asked. A groan was his answer and moments later Naruto stumbled out of the hole he had made in the ground. Was that the boss? Naruto asked, and both Jiraiya and Gamakichi shook their heads. Nope. Try again, Jiraiya said. Naruto frowned and closed his eyes. Fox, I don't understand. With all that chakra I could have summoned you. Why didn't the boss frog come out? Naruto asked. The damn frog wants more chakra than me. Greedy bastard. Use some of my chakra to summon him. Kyuubi suggested. Thanks, bastard fox. Naruto replied jokingly before opening his eyes, no longer the clear blue they used to be, but blood red with a slit pupil. Forming the seals and biting his thumb again, he slammed his hand on the ground and called. No. Once again, a huge puff of smoke followed, and when it cleared, a huge frog was there. He was orange-reddish in color with a blue jacket on and a dagger at his hip. Well, for the frog it was a dagger, but to a human it was way too big to be handled. The frog also had a huge scar covering his left eye. A huge pipe was puffing out smoke from the frog's mouth. Huh, who summoned me? Jiraiya. Get out here, Jiraiya. The frog bellowed. But the white-haired man was nowhere to be seen. Naruto jumped up and down on top of the frog's head after Kyuubi confirmed it was the boss frog, or as Kyuubi called him, the bastard bossy piece of dried frog hide. What is this? Gamabunta, the boss frog, asked before grabbing Naruto with his severely pierced and very long tongue. Hey, let me go. Naruto yelled. Who are you, brat? You look familiar. Gamabunta asked. Uzumaki Naruto, and I summoned you, not Ero Sennin. Naruto stated proudly. Uzumaki. No way. He was just a baby last time I saw him. Gamabunta asked. Huh, you think I believe you could summon me, brat? The frog boss said loudly. Naruto was about to say something back, when Gamakichi jumped on top of Naruto's head. Hey Pops, the little frog said while waving at his father. Gamakichi. What are you doing here? Gamabunta asked. This guy summoned me, and he summoned you as well. He's pretty cool. Gamakichi said, and Gamabunta looked at Naruto again. Still I can't just accept the kid. I'll tell you what, brat, if you can keep on my head until sundown, then I'll accept you as my summoner. Gamabunta said, and before Naruto could reply, he was placed on the frog's head and had to cling on for his bare life as Gamabunta started hopping and leaping all over the forest they were in. Ah, I'm gonna die, Naruto screamed. What have you done with Ino-chan? Sakura yelled at Tenchi, who winced at the tone. He walked past his conscious student and laid Ino down on the couch in the Haruno residence. She's just exhausted. I was teaching her something, and she drained all her chakra while mastering it. I thought you could try to help her, since you are a medic in training. Tenchi said and walked up to Sakura. Ah, you can keep your chakra sphere active for longer times at a time now. Nice to see, Tsunade said. She and Rin entered and heard what Tenchi said and sensed his chakra. Yeah, although it drains quite a lot of chakra. Has Sakura learned to treat chakra exhaustion yet? Tenchi asked. Let's see if she remembers. Rin said, and Sakura gulped before a green glow surrounded her hands and she pressed them on Ino, one over Ino's heart, and one over her belly button. Yup, she remembers, Tsunade said happily. About 1 hour before sunset. Ah, don't jump so high, Naruto yelled. Gamabunta, who had a headache from all the yelling Naruto had done, responded by jumping even higher than he had, easily 3 times the height of the Hokage Tower. Never thought Naruto would be afraid of heights. Jiraiya, who was watching from a distant tree, said and chuckled slightly at the terrified look Naruto had. Gamakichi, on the other hand, seemed to enjoy the ride. At least he is still on, but I think he should stop yelling, or Gamabunta might step on him next time he is summoned. Jiraiya said dryly. Ino groaned as she opened her eyes. At first her sight was blurry and Ino saw a blob of pink, but her sight cleared and revealed Sakura sitting next to her. You're awake. Good. Sakura said and smiled at her friend. Ah, Ino. Good to see you're awake. How do you feel? Tenchi asked, and Ino noticed him, Rin and Tsunade sitting in chairs, sipping tea. Sensei. What happened? Ino asked. You passed out, that's what happened. Sakura scolded. At least you mastered Kage Bunshin. Tenshi said and the room grew silent. You taught her Kage Bunshin? Rin asked and Tenshi nodded. Yep. And she did very well with it. She can't make as many, but she can make some, and that is a big advantage for her training. Tenshi said. Huh? Both Sakura and Ino asked. When someone makes a Kage Bunshin, they make a new body that has the same properties as the original body, only it will disappear when hit. When the clone is dispelled, the original learns what the clone has seen, learned and accomplished. Tsunade explained. An example is if I want to master something new, I can either work on it on my own, have someone teach it to me or make some Kage Bunshins to work on together with me. Then when I dispel the clones, what progress my clones have made, is transferred to me. That way I can master it much faster. Rin said. If I make one Kage Bunshin, then the time of mastering it is cut in half. If it takes 2 days on my own, it takes 1 day with a Kage Bunshin. Ino can't cut her learning time down much, since if she makes too many clones, then she won't have enough chakra to use when practicing, thereby missing the point. But even if she only makes one Kage Bunshin, her progress will be much faster than normally. That is why I taught Ino Kage Bunshin, at least partly. That has lots of other uses, but the true power of the Kage Bunshin is that what the clone learns is transferred to the user. I don't know if Naruto has realized this yet, though. Tenshi said, and scratched his chin in thought. Probably not. Tsunade mumbled. Then aren't Kage Bunshins effective on scouting? Sakura asked and Tenshi nodded. Very. Since the clone is only that, a clone, the user can send it ahead to scout out the terrain and not fear for his own life. When the clone is dismissed, the user automatically learns what the clone has found out. He said and Ino grinned widely. Ha! Take that forehead girl. Ino said, flashing Sakura a big victory sign. Ah, but Ino, it was Sakura who saved you. Rin said. Huh? Ino asked. The reason Kage Bunshin is forbidden is because it splits the chakra evenly between the user and the clone or clones. What that does is give the user less chakra to use in battle, and a bigger chance of chakra exhaustion. If you have absolutely zero chakra, then you'll die. Sakura treated you to chakra exhaustion just now. Tenshi explained, and Ino looked slightly down. Promise me this Ino, never make more than 10 clones at one time for now. If the clone is killed before using up its chakra, then the chakra returns to you, but if not then that portion of chakra is lost to you. For now, don't make more than 10 Kage Bunshins. Okay. Tenshi asked and Ino nodded. What about Naruto? Sakura asked. He has a much greater stamina than you two, plus he has Kyuubi. I have no idea how many clones Naruto can make before he suffers chakra exhaustion. Tenshi said truthfully. After a brief silence, Ino tried to stand up, but Sakura held her down. Don't move. I'm not letting you out of my sight until I'm sure you have recovered enough. Sakura said seriously. Ino sighed and laid back down. Why me? She asked and the others, excluding Sakura, who frowned, laughed at her remark. Damn, the kid is loud. Just like Arashi. Gamabunta thought, and snickered slightly at the thought of the last loud, annoying blonde he had on his head. The sun was almost down when Gamabunta stopped and Naruto tumbled down and landed on the frog's nose. Ha! I'm still on top. Oh, yeah, I won. Ah, ah. Naruto yelled when he stumbled. Acting quickly, he made several Kage Bunshins, which grabbed him and dragged him up on Gamabunta again. Naruto panted, but did a victory pose before his eyes drifted shut and he fell once again. No, if he falls, he'll die. Jiraiya said, still hiding in a tree, observing with his binoculars. But Gamabunta stopped Naruto's fall with his tongue. He wrapped Naruto up and placed him back on his head. Too bad, you almost won. But you have guts, kid. I like that, Gamabunta said. Just then a scroll came flying past him and unraveled itself. It was the summoning scroll for the frogs. Next to Yondaimi's name stood, Uzumaki Naruto. Hey, you didn't have to do that, Jiraiya. I know he summoned me by his own power. Summon me whenever you're in need, kid. But for now, I think I should take you to the hospital. Gamabunta said, and jumped towards Konoha. The hospital staff jumped when they heard a loud crash, and scrambled outside to see a gigantic footprint, and Naruto lying in front of it, blissfully unconscious. A few days later, Tenchi, Haku, Ino and Sakura visited Naruto in the hospital. He had just woken up, and was hungry, very hungry. He happily munched down the food that Rin had packed and sent with Tenchi. So, you did it? Tenchi asked and Naruto nodded before swallowing what he had in his mouth. Yeah, I summoned Gamabunta. Now Tsunade no Basan has lost. Naruto said. Sakura, Ino and Haku looked at each other. No Basan? Sakura asked and Tenchi snickered. So, Jiraiya told you how old she is? He asked and Naruto nodded. Realizing his mistake, Naruto quickly added. Yeah, he did. She's just an old woman under A. Naruto said and Tenchi grinned. Don't tell her that, or you'll be sent into orbit around the moon. He said and stood up. Come on, I know you are to be released today. Let's go for a walk together. The 3 genin and 1 caretaker agreed with that suggestion. The 5 members of Team 7 walked together down the main road of Konoha when Tenchi suddenly started chuckling. Haku joined in and soon the 2 of them were laughing loudly. What's up with you two? Sakura asked. Naruto, I'm disappointed. I thought you would have noticed at least. Look behind us, Tenchi suggested and the 3 genin, Naruto, Sakura and Ino, turned as one. What they saw made several anime-style sweat drops to form on their heads. A square box with 2 holes for sight, and painted to look like a rock. What the? Sakura and Ino asked while Naruto just sighed. Oh no, not them. Naruto groaned, grabbed Sakura and Ino's hands and started pulling them away. Tenchi and Haku followed, curiously. After a few minutes, Naruto had enough and stopped walking, allowing the bow to catch up. Whirling around, he pointed accusingly at the box. You can come out now, he said and a young voice came from inside the box. As expected of my rival. A colorful explosion followed, revealing 3 kids, all coughing and complaining about too much smoke. When they noticed 4 sets of eyes on them, or 5 as they thought, they jumped up and did some stances which Naruto wondered was inspired by Jiraiya, and for the second time Tenchi was glad he couldn't see. The first kid, apparently the leader, was a kid with brown spiky hair. The second was a girl with orange hair divided into 2 pigtails, only on top of her head. The last was a boy with gray hair in a rather plain and normal haircut. The last kid wore glasses and his nose seemed to be constantly running. The first 2 wore long scarves, the boy a blue one and the girl a red one. All 3 of them had goggles on their heads. The Konohamaru trio emerges. The kids started. Udon, the last boy, now identified as Udon, said. Moegi, the girl said. And the future Hokage, Konohamaru. Konohamaru said. Naruto looked at them, surprised that they were coping him with the goggles. What's with the goggles, Konohamaru? Naruto asked. We're trying to look like our idol, leader. Konohamaru said and Sakura snickered. If you're trying to do that, you have to go to the nearest clothes shop, get the absolutely worst outfit they have, prance around Konoha, fail the graduation exam several times, get a really cool sensei that forces you to wear something better. Ino said and Naruto looked like he had a mountain on his shoulders. Tenchi and Haku tried to remain neutral, but had to work hard not to smile at the joke Ino played on Naruto, or was it on Naruto's fans? They look close to the leader. They must be, Konohamaru thought before smirking. Leader, you playboy, which of these hot babes is your this? He asked while holding up his little finger, meaning girlfriend. Naruto laughed and scratched his head in an embarrassed manner. Little kids shouldn't talk about that, Naruto said, and Konohamaru was about to say something when Tenchi stepped forward. Run along now, kids. Try to learn to disguise yourselves better, he advised. The kids didn't look like they wanted to leave, but after shrugging and forcing Naruto to promise to play with them later, they ran down a side street. But it didn't go long before the sensitive ears of Tenchi and Naruto picked up Konohamaru yelling something. Naruto started rushing towards where he heard Konohamaru, Ino and Sakura following closely behind. They rounded a corner and saw Konohamaru being held in the air by a black-clad boy with a hood with what looked like cat ears on. He had wrapped something on his back, and his face was full of paint, or makeup. Naruto wasn't sure which it was. Next to the boy was a girl with blonde hair in 4 pigtails and a light dress with a net shirt and stockings. She had a fan on her back and her forehead protector around her neck. Their forehead protectors showed that they were from the hidden village of sand. That hurt, brat, the black-clad kid said and held Konohamaru up higher. Kankuro, stop it. We'll get in trouble, the girl said. Relax, Tamari. The boy, Kankuro, replied. I suggest you let him down. Naruto growled out. Kankuro glared back. Sakura and Ino walked up and stood behind Naruto, both laying a hand on his shoulders. You should listen to Naruto, Ino said. You're here for the Chunin exams? Sakura asked, and Tamari nodded while eyeing Naruto and the way the girls were leaning on him. These girls act like he is their boyfriend. For a guy to snag 2 girls, he has to be very special. To be honest, he is kinda attractive and cute, Tamari thought, and a faint blush appeared on her face. Quote. I'll take care of this brat first and then I'll kick your ass, blondie, Kankuro said, ignoring the fact that Tamari was blonde as well. He prepared to hit Konohamaru and Naruto ran towards Kankuro, surprising him with his speed. But before Naruto reached them, or Kankuro's fist reached Konohamaru, Ino appeared next to Kankuro, grabbing his fist, while Haku grabbed Konohamaru. He and his 2 friends ran away once Haku sat him down on the ground. Meanwhile, both Kankuro and Tamari wondered why they hadn't seen Ino move. While they hadn't been looking, Ino had managed to drop her weights. I advise against doing that again. That boy you almost punched is the Sandaime Hokage's grandson. Not wise to pick on him, Sakura said. Naruto walked up to his girlfriends and turned to a tree by the street they were in. And it is useless to hide, Naruto said, and a boy stepped out of hiding, standing upside down on a branch on the tree. He's good, Ino, Sakura and the boy thought, although not about the same boy. Gaara, Kankuro stammered, fear evident on both his and Temari's face. Gaara had red unruly hair, green eyes with dark lines around, and the kanji for love tattooed on his forehead. He also had a large gourd on his back. Naruto, Sakura and Ino almost shivered at the feeling of dread they got from him. Haku also felt it, but she was quicker to place what it was. I have to tell Tenchi about this, she thought. You bring shame over our village, Gaara said towards Kankuro. But they started it, Kankuro protested. Shut up. I'll kill you, Gaara said coldly. Kankuro gulped and stammered forth an apology while Gaara looked at Haku. She was fast and silent enough that I didn't sense her, he thought before his gaze went to Ino. She's fast as well. Lastly, his look was fixed on Naruto. He's much stronger than he lets on. Also, I sense something familiar with him. Gaara vanished in a whirl of sand and reappeared between Kankuro and Tamari. It seems we are a bit early, but we aren't here to play. Let's go, he said before turning to leave. Wait, what's your name? Naruto asked. Tamari thought he was talking to her and blushed slightly. Me, Sabaku no Tamari, and my brother Kankuro, she replied, pointing at Kankuro. And you with the gourd? Naruto asked. Sabaku no Gaara. You seem interesting. What's your name? Gaara replied. Uzumaki Naruto, and this is Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura, Naruto said while pointing out his girlfriends. And this is Haku, Naruto said, pointing to Haku. Kit, I sense something demonic about this, Gaara, Kyuubi said. Me too, Naruto replied. I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the Chunin exam. Let's go. Gaara commanded and he, Temari and Kankuro vanished. Naruto and Haku took a glance up at the tree Gaara came from before turning to leave. Up in the tree, 3 ninjas from the hidden village of Sound hid. That blonde and brunette noticed us. One of the Sound nuns said. They're good. Another replied. Tenchi frowned. Haku had found him after he had finished the meeting with the Hokage he had been summoned to before Team 7 met the Sand team. She had proceeded to tell him about what had happened, and Tenchi frowned. Can you find them again? He asked. Haku was slightly cut off, but nodded before taking his hand. He smiled and squeezed her hand slightly, not noticing the slight redness in Haku's cheeks. Let's go, Haku said, and they set off to find the Sand team. Someone is coming, Temari said. She, Kankuro and Gaara had been walking and exploring Konoha when she felt Tenchi's chakra radar. Gaara gave no indication of having heard her, having sensed the approaching pair on his own. Moments later, Tenchi and Haku landed in front of the Sand trio. What do you want? Gaara asked coldly. Tenchi let go of Haku's hand and stopped sending out chakra. Then his shoulders lowered, and to the 3 from Sand it looked like he was relaxing. But Haku knew he was making sure he could see. Tenchi walked towards Gaara, who tensed up. Tell me, are you Gaara or Shukaku? Tenchi asked. Temari and Kankuro gasped in surprise, while Gaara took a step back. How? Who are you? He asked, and Tenchi smiled. Your worst nightmare, Tenchi replied. So, what do you want to do? Sensei said he wanted to meet us tomorrow, but until then we have the time off. Sakura said. Naruto grinned. Let's go on a date, he said, and Sakura and Ino nodded eagerly. Sure. Any plans, Naru-kun? Ino asked, showing Naruto her new nickname for him. There's a great movie going now. Ninjas 2 Feet. Let's go see that, Naruto said, and both Sakura and Ino agreed to that. Your worst nightmare, if you are Shukaku. If you are Gaara, then I'm the sensei of one of your competing teams. So, which is it? Tenchi asked, his tone leaving no bullshit. Haku remembered he used that tone when his eyes shone, meaning he was in his weapon mode. This boy is that serious of a threat. No, Tenchi is worried that the demon has taken over. Haku thought, feeling herself tense up slightly. It wasn't until Tenchi started emitting a huge killing intent that Gaara replied. I'm Gaara, was the simple answer. How did you know about the demon? Temari asked, her voice slightly shaky. Simple. I can smell the demonic chakra coming from Gaara, and Haku felt it as well. Gaara has the dark rings around his eyes, showing he is insomniac. And you are from Suna. The only demon associated with Suna is the one-tailed tanuki, Shukaku. Also, those that have Shukaku sealed inside them are afraid to sleep since the demon comes out and eats away their souls when the vessel is asleep. Tenchi said, and Temari and Kankuro exchanged worried glances. What do you want? Gaara asked. To warn you. I assume that your life has been similar to the demon vessels here in Konoha, which could be described as hell. Am I right? Tenchi asked, and Gaara groaned in pain and held his head, flashbacks of how the villagers of Suna used to treat him. Seeing that Gaara wasn't answering, Temari spoke. Gaara has always been seen as the demon, and he kills anyone who does anything against him. She said, and both Haku and Tenchi saw and heard how scared she was. Gaara. Our father sealed Shukaku inside Gaara before he was born, sacrificing our mother in the process. Kankuro said. Before Temari or Kankuro could say anything, sand flew from Gaara's gourd and reached towards them. But it was stopped by a wall of flame that turned the sand into glass. They turned to see Tenchi holding the tiger seal. I don't have any demonic chakra, but I'll tell you this. You try anything like that again, and you'll see that even demons aren't invincible. Kill only when you have to, and don't even try anything against Konoha. You hear me, vessel? Tenchi growled. Gaara stared at Tenchi before he vanished in a swirl of sand. Tenchi sighed and tensed for a second before relaxing again, and Haku knew he was blind again. Well, that was interesting. Shall we go home, Haku? Rin said she was cooking dinner for us today. Tenchi asked. Haku grabbed his hand in response. Before they left, Tenchi turned to Tamari and Kankuro. Good luck in the exams, he said, and both he and Haku vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto, Sakura and Ino walked out of the cinema, laughing loudly and merrily. That was so funny. They couldn't even use chakra. And using those rubber things for climbing in the ceilings and walls. Sakura said and giggled, calling it a vanishing and just throwing a smoke bomb and running. That was funny. Ino said and laughed at the person who was supposed to be able to vanish in thin air. But that ghost was scary. Naruto said and shivered. I didn't know you were scared of ghosts. Sakura said and Ino laughed suddenly. And how did you even see the movie? To me it looked like you were too busy staring at me and Sakura. Ino said. She and Sakura laughed at Naruto's sudden red look. Well, Naruto stammered and only made the girls laugh harder. Naruto looked at the sun and got an idea. Grabbing the girls' hands, he pulled them after him towards the Hokage monument. Hey! Both girls protested, but Naruto didn't slow down. Not long afterwards, the three of them sat on top of the Yondaime's head, gazing out over Konoha and enjoying the sunset. Naruto in the middle with Sakura on his left and Ino on his right. The girls were leaning on Naruto, and he was quite enjoying the situation. They didn't say anything, just enjoyed being where they were. Occasionally Naruto would kiss either Sakura or Ino on the top of their heads, enjoying the smell of their hair at the same time. Ah, as always an excellent meal, honey. Tenchi said and Rin smiled. I have a feeling I could serve you cereal and you'd still think it was excellent. Right, Rin asked and Tenchi shrugged. Still, dinner was very good, Rin-san. Haku said. Leave the Rin. Haven't I told you that before? Rin asked and Haku nodded while smiling sheepishly. But what about Sakura and Naruto? They're late, Rin said and Tenchi chuckled. I have a feeling they are just fine. Perhaps they went on a date, he said, and Haku nodded in agreement. Tenchi stood up and walked behind Rin, giving her a hug from behind. He whispered something in her ear, which made her blush, but nod. After taking the dishes out, Tenchi and Haku were cleaning the dishes, Tenchi for the first time after becoming blind. So, what did you tell Rin? Haku asked and Tenchi smiled slightly. I just suggested she stay here for the night. She did say she wanted to try out my bed, he said, and Haku looked at him, a weird feeling in her gut, before she focused on cleaning again. Haku? Tenchi asked in a concerned tone. Huh, oh, nothing. That sounded great, Haku replied hesitantly. What the? Tenchi thought but decided not to ask. The next day, Tenchi rose reluctantly from bed, leaving a happily sleeping Rin, who groaned at the loss of her pillow, also known as Tenchi's chest. But he had to go meet Naruto, Sakura and Ino and give them their applications for the Chunin exam. That didn't stop him from having a slightly grumpy attitude when he and Haku walked towards the meeting spot. Haku, on the other hand, was in a teasing mood. So, did you sleep well last night? She asked, but before Tenchi could reply, she pressed on. I didn't hear anything from you two last night. You didn't even have a nightmare, did you? Was Rin that good? Haku asked. For the record, we just slept. Nothing more, and yes, I didn't have any nightmares last night. I wonder if it's just Rin or the fact that I wasn't alone that gave me such a good night's sleep. Tenchi said, slightly gruffly. Perhaps a combination, Haku suggested. Yeah, sure. We're here, aren't we? Tenchi asked. Haku looked up and saw the three genin already waiting. Yup, she replied. Okay, as you must have guessed already, the Chunin exams are soon. Here are your applications. Tenshi said, and Haku handed out the 3 slips of paper. An application isn't binding. You must choose on your own if you want to take the exam. It is your decision, not the team's. Got it? Tenshi asked. Sure, sensei, Genin replied. Good. If you choose to take it, then come to the academy, room 301 before 4 o'clock tomorrow. Good luck. Don't train too much today, if any at all. Think carefully about this. This exam is dangerous, and you enter to become Chunin. Not to anything else, Tenshi said. When he was sure that Genin knew all he had to say, he turned to leave. Hey sensei, where are you going? Sakura asked. Home to see if your mother is still in bed. If she is, then I'm going to sleep. If not, then I'll probably practice with Haku. If she doesn't have anything else to do though. Tenshi said, and Haku shook her head. Nope, all free, she said cheerfully. Well, hear you 3 later. Tenshi said, and he and Haku vanished in twin puffs of smoke. The next day, Team 7 made their way towards the academy. When they arrived, they saw a crowd outside a room with the number 301. A boy wearing a green, very tight jumpsuit with a bowl haircut and very large eyebrows was knocked by 2 boys standing in front of the door, guarding it. And you're going to take the Chunin exam? Pathetic. One of the boys said. Be glad that we are doing this. The Chunin exam is extremely hard. You weaklings would just get killed. The second said. A girl wearing a pink shirt and having her brown hair in 2 buns on her head stepped up to them. Please let us pass, she said shyly. Her answer was a backhanded fist which sent her crashing to the floor. Give up. The Chunin exam is way too difficult for you. We even failed 3 times. The second boy said. Have you any idea how many we have seen killed or injured for life by this exam? The first asked. A Chunin is a team captain. The safety of the team, the success of the mission, it all rides on the captain. And you are trying to become that? Give me a break. The second said. Naruto looked at Sakura, who snorted and nodded. Naruto was about to say something, when the almighty Uchiha Sasuke arrived and started talking. Why don't you shut up and lift that? He asked loudly. Several people wondered what the kid was talking about. This is the 2nd floor. We are going to the 3rd. Sasuke said, and the sign shifted and revealed 201. So, you saw it. But that isn't enough. The first kid said and moved to kick Sasuke. Sasuke responded by moving to kick back, but the green-clad kid moved in between and stopped their kicks with his bare hands. Fast, Team 7 thought. Oi, a brown-haired kid from the Hyuga clan said, walking up to the green-clad one. It was your idea that we hide our strength. And you go and do this. The Hyuga scolded, and Naruto noticed that the bruises the green-clad one had were gone. The green-clad one looked at Sakura and blushed. The pink-wearing girl, Tenten, shook her head. Oh no, she muttered. It seems those 3 are teammates. Ino mumbled to Naruto, who nodded in response. The green-clad kid walked up to Sakura, a faint blush on his cheeks. My name is Rock Lee. You are Sakura-chan, right? He asked. Sakura nodded, and Lee struck a pose known as the good guy pose. His right thumb up and brilliant teeth glinting. You're an angel. What about you going out with me? I'll protect you until I die. Lee said. Sakura's face showed horror, and she was about to say something when Ino snickered. Why are you calling Sakura by our sensei's name? Ino asked. Tenshi means angel. Naruto laughed at that, although Lee looked confused. Sakura composed herself, remembering some of the lessons Rin taught her on being proper. Sorry, but I'm taken. Sakura said and grasped Naruto's hand. Lee looked down before looking at Ino. Me too. Ino said and also grabbed Naruto's hand. Naruto wore a huge grin. Team 7 turned to leave when the Hyuga spoke up. You, what's your name? Sasuke, who stood nearby, thought he was being addressed, spoke up. It's customary to give your name first on introductions. The Hyuga looked at him before giving a barely audible snort. A rookie. How old are you? Hyuga asked. I see no reason to answer that. Sasuke replied. Shikamaru and Choji rolled their eyes at Sasuke and the Hyuga. Shikamaru mutters troublesomely. Meanwhile Tenten was looking at Naruto, Sakura and Ino. Two girlfriends? He must be something else. I wonder, she thought, watching as Team 7, who didn't give a shit about Sasuke, walked away. Team 7 reached room 301 and saw Tenchi and Haku stand there, waiting. Tenchi took a sniff when they approached and smiled. All three. Good. You can now enter the Chunin exam. He said. Huh, all three. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. The Chunin exams have to be taken in teams of 3. The reason we said you could choose to come or not was to ensure that you are here of your own free will. Now get in there and do your best. Haku said. And for goodness sake, remember what I taught you. Girls, make sure Naruto doesn't do anything stupid, like yelling to the whole room or something. Tenchi said. Naruto scowled but didn't say anything. Sakura and Ino opened the doors and they walked inside. When the doors closed, Haku turned to Tenchi. Will they be alright? She asked. Yeah, come on. Let's go meet with Kakashi and Kurenai. Tenchi said and they vanished. Naruto, Sakura and Ino looked around the room, seeing a lot of very serious people, including the 3 from Suna that they had met earlier. Walking away from the door, Team 7 stood in the corner, observing the rest. Team 10 walked in, Sasuke covered in bruises. What happened to Sasuke? A voice asked and Naruto turned to see Team 8. Kiba, wearing his dog Akamaru on his head, was the one who spoke. Hinata stood next to him and behind them was Shino, silent as always. Have no idea. So, how are you guys? Naruto asked. Great. We'll kick everyone's ass. Kiba exclaimed. What about you Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Oh, just fine. Naruto replied, smiling at Hinata, making her blush slightly. Team 10 came walking over and Shikamaru was the first to speak. Looks like all 9 rookies are here. Troublesome. Shikamaru said. Oh shut up. Everything is troublesome for you. Kiba said and everyone, excluding Sasuke and Shino, snickered at that. You there. Quiet down a bit will ya? A voice asked. They turned to see a silver-haired guy wearing glasses and purple clothes standing there. You are this year's rookies, right? My name is Kabuto. Take a look around. Kabuto advised and the rookie 9 did. They were scowling and downright unfriendly faces all around. Those behind you are from the Hidden Rain. They are famous for their short tempers. If you aren't careful, they might kill you. Kabuto said. Something isn't right about this guy, Kyuubi said. No kidding. Naruto asked sarcastically. He had been unnerved by Kabuto since he spoke with them. But I can't blame you. This is your first time and all. How about I give my cute juniors a few pointers? Kabuto said and Sasuke frowned. Kabuto-san, is this your second try? Sakura asked. No, 7th. 2 exams in the year, so this is my 4th year. Kabuto replied. Weak. Naruto and Kyuubi said at the same time. So you know a lot about this exam? Kiba asked. Yeah, I have collected all I know on the exam into these cards. Kabuto said and pulled out a stock of cards. They are blank until I pump my chakra into it, making the information visible. Kabuto said while crouching down. He laid a card on the ground, making it swirl and in a proof the blank surface was replaced with a map. This is the map of the Shinobi lands, and which villages have sent how many teams. I have information on them all, although on the team from Sound I don't know much. New village and first time in the exam and all. Kabuto said. Do you have information on each person? Sasuke asked and Kabuto nodded. Someone you are looking for? He asked. Rock Lee from Konoha and Uzumaki Naruto from Konoha. Sasuke said and everyone except Naruto stared at Sasuke. He wants to know how strong I am. Almighty Uchiha isn't so sure of himself. Naruto thought and Kyuubi snickered. Can't wait until you kick his sorry ass. The Great Fox replied. Oh, you have their names. That makes things easier. Kabuto said and held up 2 cards. First, Rock Lee. He is 1 year older than you. His mission history is 20D rank and 11C rank. He has no talent for Ninur, but his taijutsu has developed extremely this last year. He was praised as a skilled genin, and this is his first exam. His teammates are Tenten and Hyuga Neji. His sensei is Maeda Guy. Kabuto said and Sasuke nodded. Next, Uzumaki Naruto. His mission experience is 10D rank missions and 1 A rank mission. His teammates are Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino. His sensei is Tengoku Tenshi. All other information on Naruto is wiped out, presumably by his sensei. I have no idea why though. Kabuto said, and Team 8 and 10 looked questionably at Naruto, who smirked back. He was suddenly aware of someone heading towards them at a high speed. He also felt that whatever it was, wasn't headed for him, but Kabuto. Sakura and Ino also felt it, and neither of them moved to help, remembering something Tenshi taught them once. Flashback. Listen, we are ninjas. We can't trust anyone, unless we know we can trust them. When you don't know if you can trust them or have a reason for trusting them, then don't. Not even Konoha nuns. Always make sure you know a person good enough before trusting them. Remember, there will be times when comrades will be on opposite sides, and misplaced trust is bad. Also, if the person gives you something without either expecting something back, or having a good reason, then be suspicious. As ninjas, it is better to be too suspicious than too little. Tenshi said seriously. But didn't you say that those that don't take care of their comrades are worse than trash? Sakura asked and Tenshi nodded. Yeah, but they have to become your comrades first. It isn't enough just to be from the same village. Think about the majority of the Chunins and Junins that witnessed the Kyuubi attack. They wouldn't hesitate to kill Naruto if he trusts them. Take care of your comrades, but be careful who you make. Of course, you can't choose who to be on missions with, so look out for other nuns on missions, but be careful who you trust. Tenshi replied. End flashback. The 3 from the sound rushed at Kabuto. One of them, a man covered in bandages and with something furry on his back, took a swing at Kabuto, who dodged. But after the punch passed, Kabuto fell down, his glasses broke and he vomited. What the hell was that sound? Naruto thought, rubbing his hurting ears. Some sort of sound attack. You heard it because of your advanced hearing. Kyuubi said. Just then an explosion erupted in the front of the classroom and a lot of Chunin stood there. In the lead a tall man wearing a black trench coat stood. His face was covered in scars. Shut up. Damn brats. The man shouted. Sorry for the wait. I am Morino Ibiki and I will be your examiner for the first exam. Ibiki said, and the slight killing intent he emitted made several genins gulp. Ibiki then pointed at the 3 from the sound. You 3 from sound. No more trouble, or I'll throw you out myself. Ibiki said. The one who had taken a swing at Kabuto mumbled an apology and a lame excuse. This might as well be a good opportunity to say this. There will be fighting in this exam, but not without the consent of the examiners. Any other fighting and you fail right away. Trash that disobey the rules will get thrown right out. Ibiki said before holding up a numbered paper. Each team is to approach one of the examiners and get registered. Then you take a number and get to the seat your number represents. Then we hand out the written test. Ibiki said and a huge scramble came after those words. Written test. Oh, man. I hate written tests. Naruto moaned in his head. He chose to ignore the laughing fox. Now that everyone has taken a seat, I can explain the rules. Don't turn your tests over yet, and listen. No questions are allowed. Ibiki said and started to write on the blackboard. This is Naruto's worst kind of test. Hope he'll be alright. Ino and Sakura thought. Rule 1. You have 10 points to begin with. The written test has 10 questions. For each wrongly answered question, you lose 1 point. If you have all correct, you keep your 10 points. If you have 3 wrongs, then you have 7 points. Ibiki explained. So, answer all wrong, and you fail. Naruto thought. No, really. Your intelligence surprises me every time. Kyuubi said. Rule 2. This is a team test, which means we will be checking every team for their overall score. If you pass is decided on the performance of the team as a whole. Ibiki said. Someone jumped up and shouted out. What? How are we supposed to work in teams? Shut up. Who gave you permission to ask? Ibiki bellowed. Sorry. The person said and sat down. Rule 3. Cheating or anything that can be counted as cheating is forbidden and will result in 2 minus points each time you are caught. Ibiki said. And remember, we see everything. One of the Chunins, now positioned in chairs around the room, said. Which means that if you cheat, you can lose all your points, and get thrown straight out. You are supposed to become Chunin. Act like ninjas. Those that cheat without thinking will only be digging their own grave. Ibiki said. Last rule. If someone on the team loses all his or her points, then the whole team fails. No matter how the teammates do. Ibiki said in a chorus of, what? Sounded through the room. Oh, man. Naruto, Sakura and Ino thought. Naruto-kun, good luck. A voice came. Naruto turned to his right and saw Hinata. Oh, Hinata. Good luck. Naruto replied and Hinata smiled at him. Their attention was brought back to the front by Ibiki's booming voice. You have 1 hour. Begin. Ibiki yelled and everyone turned their test over. With our subordinates gone, it's pretty boring here. Kakashi said. He, Kurenai, Asuma, Tenchi and Haku sat together in a popular hangout place for Junins. Asuma was smoking as usual, Kurenai and Kakashi relaxed in their seats, Haku drank some of her tea while Tenchi tried to block out the smell of Asuma's smoke. He didn't have much success. Do you know who they picked to be the first examiner? Kurenai asked. I can give an educated guess. Tenchi answered. Oh, care to share? Asuma asked, knocking the ashes of his smoke into the ashtray, sending more smoke up for Tenchi to try and ignore. Morino Ibiki. Tenchi replied and Asuma smiled while giving a nod. That's right, he said and Kakashi's eyes widened. That's sadist, he said. Sadist. Kurenai and Haku asked. Kurenai, you're a rookie Junin, so it isn't surprising you don't know. Asuma said. And Haku is brand new in Konoha. Tenchi added. So, who is he? Haku asked. Pro. A pro. Kakashi replied. A pro. Kurenai asked. A pro at what? Haku asked. Asuma blew out some smoke and smiled at the two curious girls. Interrogation and torture. He said. The reason I guessed him is because he is the ANBU's interrogation squad leader. No physical torture is allowed in the exam, but the ones taking the test are to be tested for their information gathering, as well as their guts and confidence in their skills and their teammates. Morino Ibiki can scare the shit out of anyone, and the Genins are probably feeling a lot of mental strain from him already. Tenchi said and Asuma nodded. That still doesn't explain how you guessed it. Haku pointed out. This is the first exam in 5 years that rookies participate. The higher-ups want to make sure they are up for the task. Also a few important rookies are taking the exam, like the Hyuga's genius and their heir, the last Uchiha and the Kyuubi brat. The council wants to make sure our rookies are good enough, so they make sure the test will be very hard. Tenchi explained and the others nodded. That's probably the reason, yes. Well, I have no doubt my team will pass. Kakashi said. Confident huh? Can I ask why? Kurenai asked. Teamwork is rather weird on my team. Sasuke will take care of himself, while Shikamaru and Choji look after each other. Sasuke will only care about his teammates when he has to. Shikamaru and Choji will get through this together. Shikamaru is smart, real smart. He should be able to figure out the test, and help Choji. Sasuke is also smart enough to find the true purpose and has the eyes to make this test a breeze. Kakashi said. Kakashi, I wanted to ask you something about Sasuke. Tenchi said. What? Kakashi asked. What keeps Sasuke here? What makes him loyal to Konoha? Tenchi asked. Kakashi, Asuma and Kurenai's eyes widened. Kakashi thought for a while. Each passing moment, the other occupants of the room were filled with a sense of dread. I see your point. He doesn't have much that keeps him here. He knows his clan has always been a part of Konoha, and he wishes to rebuild the Uchihas. Also, even though he hides it, the mission where he got his Sharingan made him realize that his team isn't going to slow him down. I think he enjoys his training with us. Also, there is Naruto. Kakashi said. Huh, last time I saw those two together, they looked ready to kill each other. What changed? Tenchi asked and Kakashi chuckled. Oh, they still are bitter rivals, but I know Sasuke a lot better than he thinks. And I know he enjoys the spars and training he has with Naruto. Remember, Tenchi, it has been a long time since you saw them. And they, oh shit. Sorry. Kakashi said, remembering his wording. Tenchi shook it off and motioned for him to continue. As I was saying, they have grown closer. I would say they consider each other rivals and friends. As much as I hate to admit it, like me and Guy. Kakashi explained and Tenchi chuckled. Which one of them talks about the fires of youth? Tenchi asked. Kakashi shuddered at the thought of a spandex-clad Sasuke. Kakashi-san is right, Tenchi. I don't know how they were before, but I can see that Naruto and Sasuke-san are closer than just comrades from the same village. Haku said and Tenchi nodded. Alright, just wondered, since Sasuke, with his Avenger attitude, could be prone to outside influence. Tenchi said and Kakashi gave a short snort. He wouldn't do that, was the short response to that. Kurenai seemed to remember something then. Tenchi, I want to ask you something. About Hinata. Kurenai said and Tenchi nodded. Go ahead. Well, what, do you have a plan to help her or something? Kurenai said and got puzzled looks from Kakashi and Asuma. Isn't she your student? Shouldn't you solve any problems she has? Asuma asked. Tenchi frowned. Kurenai shook her head sadly. I can't do anything about this. I don't have near enough power, influence or respect for this. The Hyuga Council are threatening to make Hinata a branch family member and make Hanabi the heir. Hinata risks the caged bird seal if something isn't done. Tenchi and Hinata's father worked together on making a plan to help Hinata, but, Kurenai said but Tenchi cut her off. Now that I'm blind, what we thought up is no longer possible. I have an idea though. Something the Hyuga Council can't do anything against. Tenchi said with a big grin on his face. What idea? Kurenai and Haku asked. Sometime in the near future I plan on taking Ino on a training trip. Sakura is apprenticed under Tsunade and Jiraiya said that he was taking Naruto on a training trip as well. I planned on going on one of my own, and bringing Haku and Ino. If Hokage-sama and you, Kurenai, agree, then I'll take Hinata as well. That way, the Hyuga can't do anything to her, since it is something the Hokage orders, and I can help Hinata grow strong enough to be the heir if she wants. Tenchi explained. And Kurenai can't? Kakashi asked. Tenchi chuckled. I didn't mean that Kurenai is a bad teacher. In fact, I would say the opposite. If Tenchi could have seen, he would have seen a small blush appear on Kurenai's cheeks. But Hinata is a Hyuga, even though she is the nicest Hyuga I have ever met. Her abilities make her a better taijutsu fighter than Kurenai. Kurenai isn't good at taijutsu, and she doesn't have the skills needed to help her with the Jiyuken either. I have. That is why I can make Hinata stronger than Kurenai can. Tenchi explained and everyone nodded in response. Of course, she has to want to come along. I can't force her. Tenchi added. Oh, she would most likely agree. I feel much better knowing that. Kurenai said. Why is it so bad if she gets that seal? Isn't it only supposed to seal away her Byakugan when she dies? Haku asked and Tenchi shook his head. No, it is also a tool used to keep the branch family in line. A main family member can activate the seal on any branch family member, inflicting intense pain or death. When the seal is activated like that, it destroys brain cells. Very cruel. Kakashi explained. Hinata is gentle and not very strong. Physically. Personally, I think she is almost as strong as Naruto, since she has survived the abuse from the Hyugas. But because she isn't a very strong fighter, she isn't liked much. If she is dishonored and becomes a branch family member, any main family member she meets will abuse her with the seal. She doesn't deserve that. I won't let that happen to her. Tenchi said and clenched his hand. Haku was startled to see bones starting to emerge from Tenchi's face, almost like sweat. She knew what it was. Oi Tenchi, calm down. You're forming your mask, Kakashi said while grabbing Tenchi's shoulder and shaking him. Oh, sorry, Tenchi said with a smile, and the bone that already had flowed out, hardened and broke, falling off. Damn it, Kakashi, I could have seen the white wolf. I still haven't seen you when you do that, Tenchi. Kurenai said. Be glad, Kakashi and Haku said at the same time. Kurenai blinked in confusion at that, while Tenchi smiled sheepishly. What is this? Naruto, Sakura and Ino thought simultaneously. They were reading the questions they were supposed to answer, and they were tough. Very tough. Sakura almost sighed in relief when she saw she could answer them, and Ino knew she could answer at least some of them. But Naruto, it was impossible for him. He couldn't answer a single of the questions on the paper in front of him. Oh crap. Oh crap. Naruto thought. He took a calming breath of air before looking at the first question. Come on Naruto, you can do this. For Sakura-chan and Ino-chan. Naruto thought to himself. Kyuubi, who was watching, rolled his eyes. Wonder how long it will take him, the fox thought to himself. Sakura was worried about Naruto, but forced herself to answer the questions, knowing that she might be the only one on the team to be able to answer on her own. Hurry up, Sakura, so I can copy you. Ino thought. She was the first on Team 7 to understand the purpose of the test. 20 minutes into the test, Sakura was finished and Ino smiled while readying herself for her. Sakura, there are 3 things I acknowledge completely about you. Your forehead, your love for Naruto and your intelligence. That's why you are my target. Ino thought and used Shintention no to transport her mind into Sakura and take over her teammate's body, while her own slumped forward, as if asleep. Ino, in Sakura's body, started memorizing Sakura's answers, making sure she knew them. She then went back to her own body and wrote down the answers. She was about to use the on Naruto, to help him with his questions, but she remembered Kyuubi. The furball resides in Naruto's mind. If I take over, then the worst case is that Kyuubi takes over Naruto's body. The best case is that I come face to face with Kyuubi, which I don't want to do at all. Sorry dear, but you have to make do on your own. Ino thought sadly. Naruto himself was near tearing his hair out. I don't have a choice. I have to cheat. But I have to be careful enough not to be caught. Like the guy who sat behind me. Naruto thought, referring to a Konoha nin who had been caught 5 times and had failed along with his team. That, along with the kunai thrown to stop the cheater, had scared Naruto from cheating, but now he knew he had to. Naruto-kun. A soft whisper came, and Naruto was surprised to see Hinata whispering at him. I'll show you my test. She said and started to slide her test under her arm, making it possible for Naruto to see. Hinata. Naruto thought with a smile. A smile that vanished when he heard one of the examiners write something down. No, I won't let anything happen to Hinata. Naruto thought and slightly shook his head. No, Hinata, if you do that, then you'll get into trouble for helping me. I'll be alright. Don't worry, Naruto whispered. Hinata looked a little shocked, but didn't respond. Instead she just pulled back her test. Okay, tough guy. Now what? Naruto thought to himself. An irritated growl from Kyuubi answered him. What is it, bastard fox? Naruto asked. Idiot. What is the purpose of this test? Kyuubi asked. To test our knowledge. Naruto answered. No, was the reply. Naruto thought for a bit, glancing at the rules. He then felt the need to hit himself in the head. To test our information gathering. Since we only lose 2 points each time we cheat, they want us to cheat, but not fail when we are caught. They want to see how well we find information. Naruto thought and Kyuubi nodded. Correct. You aren't as slow as I thought. Now how do you think you should gather information? The fox asked. I don't know. Naruto replied. When we get out of here, tell Wolf to teach you. Now, where do you usually find information? Kyuubi asked. Somewhere the information is. Naruto asked. And who do you think has the information? Kyuubi asked, irritation starting to be evident in his voice. I don't know. Probably a plant or something. Examiner in disguise, but I don't know where he or she is. Naruto replied. No, you idiot. Me. I have the information. Kyuubi yelled and Naruto cringed. Oh, sorry. Could you help me then? Naruto asked. Kyuubi sighed and rolled his eyes. 15 minutes later, a very relieved Naruto sat back in his seat. Thanks, Furball, he thought and Kyuubi growled. Don't mention it. As long as you let me out to play soon. Kyuubi replied. Naruto decided to try and see how others were cheating, but he didn't have much success. He saw that Sasuke was using his Sharingan, and he guessed that Hinata had used her Byakugan. Naruto also noted that a lot of teams had failed. I wonder how Sakura-chan and Ino-chan are doing. Naruto wondered. They're fine. Have a bit of trust in your mates, Kit. Kyuubi replied. They aren't my mates. Naruto protested. That didn't stop Kyuubi from roaring with laughter though. Ibiki was eyeing Naruto with interest. He had seen how distressed the kid was, and then suddenly he started to write down the answers, and now several emotions flew across his face. Happiness, curiosity, embarrassment and anger. I wonder, is he in contact with the fox? Ibiki asked himself, and when he saw Naruto blush suddenly and glare at his stomach, he was sure. He can talk to it. Tenchi must be aware of this, but he hasn't done anything about it, so it must be alright. Anyway, now that the trash is kicked out, we can proceed. Ibiki thought and cleared his throat. Now it's time for the 10th question. Ibiki said but was cut off by Kankuro, who came back from the toilet with one of the examiners. Just in time. Now that you are done playing with your dolls, perhaps we can continue. Ibiki said and Kankuro was shocked. He knew about Karasu. He thought, referring to his puppet disguised as the examiner behind him. Kankuro walked down the rows towards his desk, and while he passed his sister a tiny scroll fell out of his sleeve and onto her desk. Alright, now before I can give you the 10th question, there are some additional rules. Ibiki said. More. Give us a break, went through most of the genins' minds. First you have to choose if you are going to take the question or not. Ibiki said. What happens if we don't take it? Someone asked. Your points will be reduced to 0 and you will fail along with your team. Ibiki answered simply. What's that for a stupid rule? Of course we will take it then. Someone else shouted out. But if you take it, and get it wrong, you will be banned from the Chunin exam forever. Ibiki said and the room fell quiet. That is until Kiba shot up. What's that for bullshit? There are people here that have taken the exam before. He shouted. You're unlucky. This year I'm the rule. Now choose. Wait until next year, or risk never taking it again at all. Ibiki said, emitting a faint killing intent. Enough to underline his threat. Murmurs filled the room. They aren't giving up, are they? Naruto thought. Weaklings. Don't worry, your mates are confident. Both in themselves and you. Kyuubi replied. They're not my mates, Naruto shot back. One by one, genins gave up and left. Naruto inwardly sighed before taking a glance at Hinata. She didn't look very confident, and Naruto decided to help her. Oh, come on. Give us the stupid question already. Naruto said loudly. Ibiki looked at him, trying to see if he was serious. You realize that if you get this wrong, you'll never become Chunin? Ibiki asked. Ha, Even if I never become Chunin, I'll still become Hokage. Naruto replied, his voice filled with confidence. And with just that, the fear and uncertainty in the room was blown away. However, Ibiki tried again. You sure? After this, there won't be any turning back? Ibiki asked, but Naruto didn't reply. Ibiki sighed. With one statement he completely wiped all the fear away. Just like his father. I wonder if he knows, anyway it is useless to wait anymore. Ibiki thought before shaking his head. Everyone in this room passes. Ibiki said. Deafening silence. What? A not-so-silent question from the genins in the room. What about the 10th question? Someone asked. There was none. Or you can say the take or don't take choice was the question. It was an impossible problem. Take or not. Live or die. You could say that choice was the whole point of this test. Ibiki said. What? But what was the point of those other questions then? Tamari asked. They served their purpose. They weeded out those that are trash with no concept of information gathering. I'll say it again. You are here to become Chunin. A Chunin has to be able to get information. As you have noticed, the questions are difficult. To answer them, most of you had to cheat. Therefore we planted 2 Chunins who knew the answer to the questions. They were to be targets for the rest of the room. Those that cheated without thought for themselves or their teammates were kicked out. If you find wrong information on a mission, then your teammates and the village will be the ones to pay. Ibiki explained. But what about that 10th question? Someone asked. Suppose you become Chunin. You will be sent in on missions with little or none information on enemy forces. Should you choose not to take the mission because of the uncertain factors involved? The answer is no. When you get a mission, you have to complete it, or the village will be in an unfortunate situation. We are ninjas, and we are sworn to protect our village. Those that believe that there will always be a next year don't deserve to be Chunin. But you that are still in this room show you are willing to place your lives on the line. That is exactly what a ninja does every day. Congratulations on passing, and good luck in the next exams. Ibiki finished just as he, and the more skilled genins, felt something fly towards one of the windows. Who's the second examiner? Tenshi asked. Mitarashi Anko. Asuma answered. Soon after the room was filled with laughter. A black ball flew through the window, sending shards of glass flying. The ball twisted and 2 kunai shot out of it into the ceiling, revolving the ball into a banner hiding Ibiki from view. In front of the banner stood a woman wearing a brown trench coat, shin guards, fishnet clothes and a very small mini skirt. She had purple hair and brown eyes. The banner read, The second examiner, Mitarashi Anko. This isn't a time to be celebrating. I'm the second examiner, Mitarashi Anko. Follow me. Anko yelled, pumping an arm into the air. The laughter in the Junin lounge just got louder. She's just like Naruto, Ino and Sakura thought. Naruto sneezed. Everyone else stared at the strange, and loud, examiner. Ibiki's eyebrows twitched. Read the mood. Ibiki said and Anko's mood deflated. She counted the remaining people and turned to Ibiki. 26 teams. You let 78 people pass. The first test must have been too soft. Anko said, sounding upset. There were a lot of excellent ones this year. Ibiki replied. Oh well, that doesn't matter. By the end of the second exam, I'll cut them in half. Ask your sensei for directions to the next testing ground and be there tomorrow at 9. That's it. Dismissed. Anko shouted, and the genins cheered. We passed. 3 excited genin shouted while running into Tenshi and Haku's apartment. Said 2 stopped what they were doing, reading a scroll and practicing the chakra radar, and smiled. Congratulations. Was it difficult? Tenshi asked. Yeah, if it wasn't for the fox, I probably wouldn't have passed. Naruto said. Hey, I had to answer on my own. Sakura said. She missed the slight embarrassed look Ino had. Sakura, we aren't living in an honorable world. We use whatever means we have to in order to achieve our goals. Naruto didn't do anything wrong asking Kyuubi for help. Now, listen. I'll tell you where to go tomorrow, and then you three are going home and sleeping. You'll need the rest. The second exam will be in the Forest of Death. The next day, Team 7 made their way to the Forest of Death, feeling rather apprehensive at the name choice, which Tenchi had told them was very appropriate. When they arrived, they saw that most of the other teams were already there. Naruto, Sakura and Ino walked over to where the other rookies from Konoha stood. Then in a puff of smoke, Anko appeared in front of the forest. She, and the examiners already there looked around and made sure all the teams were there. When they were sure, Anko began to speak. Welcome to the Forest of Death. Soon you'll learn why it is called that. Naruto snorted when he heard that. Just get this on with, he said. Anko smiled at him before whipping out a kunai and throwing it at him, aiming to nick his cheek. But he caught it. Thanks. You can never have enough, Naruto said, pocketed the kunai and thrust an elbow into Anko's gut. She had appeared behind him, and just managed to catch the elbow. Oh, you're good, but I would keep my mouth shut and listen, if I were you, Anko said and disappeared. She reappeared next to a booth where two of the other examiners sat. This is a field exam. You will be inside this forest for 5 days. Anko started but was interrupted by a distressed Choji. What about food? He asked. Hunt. The forest is full of food, was the answer. Now, as I was saying, you will be staying in the forest. Your objective is to get these scrolls, Anko said and held up 2 scrolls, one of them brown and with the kanji for earth on it, and one white with the kanji for heaven. Each team gets one of these, and you are to get the opposite from an opposing team. By any means, Anko said and held up a bunch of papers. These are release forms. Sign them, and exchange them for the scroll in this booth, Anko said and started passing out the forms. You have 20 minutes to think about whether or not you are going to risk your lives here and sign the forms. Then come one team at a time, Anko said. So, we can kill now. Well, we should try not to, Naruto said. Sakura and Ino half glared at him. I'm sure you know, but we haven't killed yet. It won't be so easy for us as it will be for you, Ino scolded and Naruto scratched his head. Sorry, but it won't be easy for me either. Let's just sign these forms and get our scroll, okay? Naruto said. Both girls nodded at that. After Naruto, Sakura and Ino had signed their forms, they went behind the curtain hiding the exchange of the forms and scrolls, and got a heaven scroll. Naruto looked at it and gave it to Ino. Why me? Ino asked. Naruto just shrugged. I trust you, he said. Ino smiled and placed the scroll in her utility pouch. They then walked out and waited for further instructions. Finally, everyone has their scrolls. Now, let me explain about the terrain and goal of this exam, Anko said and unrolled a chart showing the Forest of Death. Training Area 44, better known as the Forest of Death, was surrounded by high fences with warning signs about not to enter. The trees of the forest itself were huge, and dark. Very dark. The fence around the forest has 44 gates, in which you will pass through. In the center of the forest, about a mile from the gates, there is a tower. You are to make your way there within 5 days with both scrolls. You have been each assigned a gate number. Go to your assigned gate and wait for it to open. That will be the start of the second exam, Anko shouted and the genins hurried to their gates. So, what's the plan? Ino asked. They were jumping from tree to tree, making good progress. We find a team, follow and see if they have the scroll we are after, and either engage or try to get the scroll by other means, Naruto replied. So, first things first, how do we find them? Sakura asked. We can try to summon, Ino suggested. Do you think slugs can help? Sakura asked, making Ino and Naruto to stare at her. You can summon slugs? Naruto asked and Sakura nodded. When Tsunade Shisho, master teacher, heard I could summon, she asked me what my natural summon was. When I told her it was slugs, at first she looked like I had hit her, before she looked almost ecstatic. Then she practically forced me to sign the contract. Sakura said. Naruto and Ino looked at her before Naruto smiled. I can't believe you even asked. If we are going to summon, either summon wolves or foxes. Naruto said. Wait, I sense someone nearby. Let's check them out. Ino said and the other two nodded. They turned to where Ino sensed someone, and the two others also sensed them. Slowing down and suppressing their chakra so much they didn't stand out more than an animal. Using everything about stealth they had learned, they were able to sneak up on a team from the hidden rain, who were sitting around a fire. Naruto, Sakura and Ino frowned in confusion when they saw the rain team's scroll, a heaven scroll, lying in the open. They looked at each other before Naruto pointed behind them and they retreated. After being sure they were a safe distance away, they stopped and looked at each other. Any ideas of why they showed the world that they had the heaven scroll? Naruto asked. And why was it virtually unprotected? Ino added. Perhaps to tell other teams, like us, that, we have the same scroll, back off, or, this is our scroll. Come and get it, Sakura suggested and the other two nodded. Didn't that Kabuto guy say that ninjas from rain have short tempers and love to fight? That strategy would make them look careless and would probably make other teams move in. Naruto said. Which reminds me, why didn't we? Ino asked and Naruto looked at her curiously. We don't need that scroll. Better to stay out of fights than to fight without meaning. Don't you remember Sensei told us that? Naruto asked and Ino grinned sheepishly. Oh yeah, forgot about that. She replied. Anyway, let's go look for another team. Sakura said, and they set out again. Come down, Jiraiya-sama. Tenchi called out. He sat under the sakura tree in his garden, Haku next to him, reading something. She hadn't wanted to tell him, so he let her be. Oh, how did you know? Jiraiya asked, appearing next to Haku, who scooted a little away from him, sending him very looks. For one, I smelled sake, frogs and bathing salt. Second, I heard you let out one of your giggles when you landed. The bathing salt and the giggle indicating that you have been at the hot spring. Oh, by the way, if I find out you have been using Rin for your perverted book, then I'll kick your ass, Sanin or no Sanin. Oh, and that counts if you use Haku or any of my students. Although Haku would probably handle the matter just as well as I. Tenchi said. Oh, why is that? Jiraiya asked. Needles, very sharp aim, very good knowledge of human anatomy. If I were to take a guess, I would say your punishment for peeking on Haku would be her remodeling your equipment. Tenchi said. He didn't notice the look Haku sent him after that, nor the near non-existent color change of her cheeks, but Jiraiya did. He wisely kept his mouth shut though, both from fear and knowledge that whatever was going on was not his business. I'll remember that. Let's get straight to the point. I'm here to discuss Naruto's training with you. Specifically what I intend to teach him. Jiraiya said. Tenchi nodded. Sure. Go ahead, he said and Jiraiya sat down. As you know, I intend to take Naruto with me on a journey. That is partly to give him experience outside Konoha, partly so that both I and he can focus without anyone interrupting us, and partly because I don't want some of the I'm going to teach him to be seen by others, especially not the Uchiha kid. Jiraiya said and Tenchi nodded. I agree. That is why I'm taking Ino, Haku and probably Hyuga Hinata with me on a similar journey. I assume you are going to teach Naruto his bloodline? Tenchi asked and Jiraiya nodded. Haku looked confused. Bloodline. But I thought Naruto-kun didn't have a bloodline limit. She said. He doesn't. But that isn't what bloodlines are. Bloodline limits are what you, Sasuke and the Hyuga clan have. Your ice abilities, the Sharingan and the Byakugan. Abilities that are in the genes of certain families. But bloodlines are something almost everyone can use. They are either created to work with the bloodline limit, or are special that one clan has made for themselves. Ino's mind, for example, is bloodline. Jutsus that aren't in the genes of the Yamanaka clan, but that are meant to stay within the clan. Tenchi explained. In Naruto's case, his family has some that are considered bloodline. They are made by his family, to be inherited by the family. Jiraiya said. I know them as well, since I was adopted by Naruto's father. Tenchi said, and Haku stared at him. Then Naruto-kun's father is. She started but was interrupted by Tenchi. Yes. I am waiting for the day that I can tell him. I wanted to wait until he asked himself. Hopefully that will be soon, since I think it is wrong to hide it from him. Tenchi said. Then why haven't you told him yet? Jiraiya asked. Because I didn't think he or I would be strong enough. I thought that the shock might be too much for him, and it isn't a happy subject for me either. Look, Naruto's parents were like my parents. I simply wasn't strong enough to tell him. Not to mention the pressure on him to keep it a secret. Tenchi said. Huh? Haku asked. Naruto's mother and father had lots of enemies. If word got out that Naruto was their son, then he would have even more assassination attempts to deal with. Jiraiya answered. Tenchi drew in a calming breath before shaking his head, clearing images of two of the most important people in his life. Anyway, what else do you plan to teach Naruto, Jiraiya-sama? Tenchi asked. Based on what you have told me of him, and what I have seen myself, I plan to make him a specialist in ninjutsu, seal techniques, and bloodline. Jiraiya said, with a hint of pride in his voice. A nin, fujin and bloodline specialist. Damn, he would be really powerful then. You plan to make him a seal master? Like yourself? Tenchi asked and Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, I want to pass on my knowledge of seals to him. Since I can't do that to you anymore, and Naruto shows more talent in sealing than you, I'll teach him everything I know. Jiraiya said and Tenchi slowly nodded. I see. Have you told him yet? He asked. Yes, and I've never seen anyone so excited. He was practically bouncing. Jiraiya said and Tenchi chuckled. That's Naruto for you. Naruto, Sakura and Ino had found another team. Another team from Rain. And like the last one, this one had their scroll in plain sight as well. An Earth scroll. Naruto, Sakura and Ino flocked together. Alright, we'll take this one. Any suggestions? Naruto whispered. I have a new one that I can take down one of them with. Ino said. Most of my news isn't offensive. What about you, Naruto? Sakura asked. Naruto thought for a while before sighing. I can take the other two, but I can't promise they'll live. Naruto replied. What are you going to do? Ino asked. Tsubaki no Mai. Naruto answered. The girls thought for a bit before nodding slowly. Try not to kill them. On your signal, Ino uses her, while you attack the others and I go for the scroll. Okay. Sakura asked and Naruto nodded. He formed the ram seal and muttered, Kai, undo, to cancel his weights. He then nodded to Ino, who began forming seals. Shinhaisa Suru no, she muttered while using her fingers to form a triangle shape. Something clear shot from her hand and hit one of the rain bins. The result was hardly impressive. It looked like he fell asleep. Naruto and Sakura looked at Ino, who grinned, showing her was a success. Naruto nodded, made a cage bunshin. Both Naruto drew their sword and chose a rain 9 each, before they both vanished from Ino and Sakura's sight. The two remaining rain nuns looked at their comrade. What's up with you? One of them said. Oi, wake up, damn it. The other yelled, and began shaking the other. Just then, one of the Narutos appeared next to the first one. The other Naruto appeared behind the second rain nin. In unison, the two Narutos yelled, Tsubaki no Mai, and a shower of stabs flew towards the rain nins. The first one managed to draw a kunai and started frantically blocking the stabs, while the second didn't have time to turn and fell down, stabbed several times. He was dead before he hit the ground. The Naruto who had done it grimaced and felt like throwing up, but held it in. Why is it so much more difficult this time? He asked himself. Behind him, the rain nin managed to land a hit on the attacking Naruto, puffing him out into a cloud. Before the rain nin could do anything, He was hit by a clear something. He fell down, looking like he was asleep as well. Ino landed next to Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto? She asked. He raised his head and tried to smile at her. It was much worse than last time. Why? Naruto asked. Because you are done now. Last time you pushed the thoughts away while rushing to our aid. Now you don't. Sakura said, landing on the opposite side as Ino. Are you okay? She asked. Naruto nodded, swallowed and looked at them. Yeah, I'm okay. It doesn't feel good though. Naruto said. It's not supposed to. Come on, let's get the scroll and get out of here. Sakura said. Ino nodded and walked towards the scroll, but Naruto stopped her. Wait, Ino-chan, use a cage bunshin. In case of a trap. Naruto suggested. Sakura nodded in agreement and Ino made a clone of herself. The clone walked up to the scroll and saw a wire attached to it. There is a wire here. If I pull the scroll, it'll probably set of a trap. But it doesn't seem too tight. I just need to get the wire off. The clone said and set to work. It wasn't easy, since a little pull on the wire would set off whatever trap the enemy was using. But after about 5 minutes, the scroll was free. Okay, now we go to the tower. Naruto said and the three of them set off, Sakura and Ino releasing their weights so they could travel faster. About an hour and a half later, Team 7 arrived at the tower. They opened one of the numerous doors and walked in. What greeted them was an empty room with a board on the wall. Sakura read it aloud. A balanced person needs both heaven and earth. If you have heaven, but not earth, run in the fields and gain strength. If you have earth, but not heaven, go to a wise man and seek help. When you have gained them both, use them well. What does that mean? Ino asked. Have no idea, but we have both heaven and earth scrolls. Perhaps it means that we are supposed to open them here. Naruto said. Let's try. Sakura said. She and Ino opened the scrolls at the same time. That's a summoning scroll. Throw them on each other. Sakura said and they did just that. A puff of smoke later revealed a smiling Rin. Ah, you were so fast. Congratulations on passing, she said. Mom, Sakura exclaimed and Rin smiled at her. What are you doing here? Naruto asked. To welcome you, and explain that. Rin said and pointed at the board. It's a poem that we use to explain, very simply, how you should train. The heaven it refers to is skill and experience. The earth is strength, speed and stamina. If you have skill, then train your body. If you have strength, then seek help to train your skills. Rin said and the three genin nodded. So, what now? Naruto asked. And are we the first? Ino asked. No, you are the third team here. One of the teams from Suna and Team 8 came before you. And until the 5th day, you are to stay in this tower. I would suggest training for 2 or 3 days, and resting the rest of the time. There is a bedroom for you, and I leave you to find the rest yourselves. See you later, Rin said before giving a hug to Naruto, Ino and lastly Sakura. Then she waved and puffed into a cloud of smoke. Okay, let's go find our room then. Ino said and Naruto and Sakura nodded in agreement. Elsewhere in the tower, a meeting was being held between Anko, Anbu, Tenshi, Haku, Tsunade and Jiraiya. Orochimaru. Tenshi growled. What's his plan? Tsunade asked Anko, who pulled on her coat after having her seal checked out by Jiraiya. I don't know. He said that he was reserving some exceptional ones here. I think he is after the Uchiha boy. Anko replied. Who is Orochimaru? Haku asked. A psycho, that's who he is. Tenshi replied. Orochimaru is a S-rank missing nin. He was once my student, and is one of the legendary Sannin. He left Konoha after he didn't get announced as the Yondaime Hokage, and it was discovered he was doing illegal experiments. Sandaime said. So, he is strong then? Haku asked and everyone in the room nodded. Sandaime turned to Tenshi. Do you think you could face him? He asked, and Tenshi thought for a bit. Face him and defeat him? Yes. Live to tell the tale. No, I still need to become more comfortable with the chakra sphere and radar for that. Tenchi answered. What are we going to do? Jiraiya asked. The only ones capable of fighting Orochimaru on even grounds are Sarutobi-sensei, myself, Jiraiya and normally Tenchi. Even if Tenchi can't fight him yet, the three of us should be able to defeat him. The only problem is we don't know where he is. Tsunade said. That isn't the only problem. Since we don't know his plans, we don't know what he will do, where he will strike, or when. Also we don't know how many men he has, or what allies he has. Sandaime said. This is bad. Real bad. Tenchi said and the rest agreed. The only thing we can do for now is to boost up security. Also, Tenchi, it would make me feel a lot better if you managed to at least get back to Sannin level. I have a feeling that we will need your power soon. Sandaime said and Tenchi nodded. I'll double my efforts. Tsunade, would it help if I used Kage Bunshin to speed up my mastering of the two? Tenchi asked. Yeah, it would, she replied. Okay, so until we know something else, we have to play things safe. Needless to say, nothing of this leaves this room. Dismissed. Sandaime said. The genins who had managed to get both scrolls and made it to the tower by 5 days, stood in front of the Hokage, the examiners and the Junin senseis. Rin, Tsunade and Jiraiya also stood with them. Behind the higher ninjas, was a statue of 2 arms holding the ram seal. The genins stood in an arena and along the walls there was a heightened floor for spectators. All of the rookie 9 were there as well as Gaara and his siblings. Welcome and congratulations on passing the second exam. Anko said, and stepped back as Sandaime prepared to speak. Let me explain to you the true purpose of this test. Sandaime said. True purpose? Kiba asked. This exam, the Chunin exam, is to show off a village's power to potential customers. If a village shows it has lots of talented and strong ninjas, then missions will increase for that village. Also, instead of killing each other, the ninja villages compete under these exams, keeping relations and allies, as well as showing off their power to enemies, keeping them from attacking. Likewise, if a village's representatives, the genins in this exam, shows that it is weaker, missions will decrease and the threat of invasion is greater. Therefore it is very important that you take these exams very seriously. The next stage will be one-on-one fighting where feudal lords and other important people will come to see you fight. The selection on who becomes Chunin is made by several judges among those important people. Sandaime explained. Then a Junin jumped in front of him, kneeling in front of him. Hokage-sama, allow me to explain what the Junin said. Naruto, Sakura and Ino smiled as they recognized Hayate. As Hokage-sama said, for the third examko, there will be a lot of important people watching. The invitations are already sent out. But since these important guests have limited time, we can't simply have many matches. That is why we must have a preliminary now. But before we begin, can those that don't feel well and want to give up, raise their hands? As it is individual fighting from now on, your decision won't affect your team. So, does anyone wish to retire from the exam? We will begin fighting immediately, so you won't have time to rest. Hayate said and a murmur arose from the genins. Naruto saw that Shikamaru was about to raise his hand when Kabuto did. I give up, he said. You are Konoha's Yakushi Kabuto. Very well. You may leave, Hayate said and wrote something down on the clipboard he was carrying. I have no idea how to write Kabuto's last name, so it'll probably be wrong. Sorry. Tenchi leaned closer to Sandaime and Anko. Something smells wrong about that boy. I suggest keeping him under surveillance. Tenchi said and Sandaime nodded. Kabuto left and once again Shikamaru was about to raise his hand, but something Sasuke said stopped him. What should we do about the Uchiha? Anko asked. Both she and Sandaime could see something was bothering Sasuke, confirming Orochimaru did something to him. Hokage-sama, I should probably have said this sooner, but I sense something foul from Sasuke. I can practically taste Orochimaru's cursed seal in the air. Looks like Anko was right, and he did survive. I'm not sure if I am happy about that or not. Tenchi said. We have to stop him from competing. If he gives in, Anko started but was cut off by Kakashi. He isn't the type to just give up and listen to you. He's here to test his strength. Kakashi said. But, Anko began. Kakashi can place the containment seal on Sasuke. Don't worry. Jiraiya said. Well, if there is no one else giving up, then let's start the first match. Hayate said, and a part of the wall behind the statue slid down, revealing a screen. Their names began to flash before the two stopped. First match of the preliminaries. Kof Uzumaki Naruto against Sabaku no Tamari. Hayate called. Can everyone except the two contenders, Kof, retreat to the upper levels to watch? Hayate said, and everyone went up the stairs to the upper levels. Tamari, Naruto and Hayate were the only ones left in the arena. Naruto and Tamari faced each other. Fighters ready? Kof? Hayate asked. Naruto and Tamari nodded. Hayate jumped away to a safe distance. The only rule is that when I laugh the match is over, it is over. Kof, also not endangering the audience. Kof, alright, begin. Hayate explained before starting the match. Firstly, thanks to all those that have given me reviews. They each mean a lot to me, even if I don't reply to them all. Secondly, I'm sorry, Darksabers Nako. I know I kind of said I would use your idea about Naruto messing up the wind and really having a futon element as well. But after thinking a bit, and consulting my two helpers, aka my beta reader, and a slightly weird friend of mine, I came to the conclusion that it wouldn't fit the story that Naruto has the futon element as well. Sorry again, but let me explain why I said I would use it in the first place. As I said in my reply to you, I thought it was a good idea. Also, it would mean that Naruto and Ino have something in common in the ninja life. Right now they don't have, like Naruto and Sakura have with the Kaden element. But I have decided on a different approach, which will also help the story later on. Naruto and Ino don't have an element in common, but they have something else. Two things actually. One of them being Naruto's signature move, Kage Bunshin. The other, wait and see, will be revealed in this chapter, at least slightly. And the third thing, I don't want to hear anything about, they are too OOC. I don't care. My story. I'll try and not make them ridiculously out of character, but some changes will be there. Example. Temari's flirting with Naruto. I doubt that Tamari in the anime would do that, but here she does. Why? Do I need one? She thinks Naruto is cute, and wants to take him home. That's why. Okay, that sounded strange. Anyway, hope you'll enjoy the next chapter. Tamari looked at her opponent, and tried to fight down the slight blush that wanted to come out. He is cute. And strong. Perhaps I can persuade him to leave his girlfriends in this place. Worth a try. Tamari thought and grinned seductively at Naruto. Tell me, cutie, why is it that you stick to this place? I watched you a bit the other day, and you weren't treated very nicely. How come you are here? I would bet you'd be much happier somewhere else. Like Suna. You'd love it there, I'm sure. Tamari said, putting every ounce of sexiness in her voice, making Jiraiya drool slightly. Naruto, though, raised an eyebrow and asked, why should I go there? I love Konoha, and besides, I have my girlfriends here. And everyone else I love and care about is here. I won't leave for anything. Naruto said confidently. Tamari snorted and looked at Sakura and Ino. Those two. A stupid blonde and a pinky with a forehead the size of a beach ball. Tamari said. What did you say? Ino and Sakura yelled, and Tenchi had to grab hold of them to prevent them from jumping down there. You do know you just insulted yourself as well, right? Naruto asked, referring to Temari's comment on blondes. She chose to not answer that one. Instead, she shrugged and reached for her fan. I just thought a cutie like you deserved something better. But let's fight, so I can win this thing. I won't hold back, even though I think you're cute. Temari said. Naruto shook his head. 1 minute flirting, the next minute fighting. He thought before deciding to at least protect Sakura and Ino a bit. Listen, I don't care what you think. I also don't care what you think or say about me, but don't speak like that about my girlfriends. They are more important to me than anything else. So keep whatever comments and thoughts you have about them to yourself. Naruto said forcibly, startling Temari a bit. I seem to have struck a nerve or something. Sigh, and I really thought this one was cute. Oh, well, Temari thought before swinging her fan. Kamadachi no, she called, and a chakra-induced tornado flew towards Naruto. Dodge, or block? Kyuubi asked in a joking manner. How the hell do you block a tornado? Naruto shot back while dodging the tornado. When the tornado passed him, a slight haze of dust obstructed Temari's visual of him. I don't know. Wanted to see you try though. Kyuubi replied with a shrug. Kaden. Hausenka no, was Naruto's answer, and several fireballs flew towards Temari, who smirked and waved her fan, blowing out the fireballs like candles. She then dodged the shuriken that was inside each of the balls. You have to be better than that. Temari said. You too. A voice came behind her, and a cold blade was pressed against her throat. Naruto in front of her puffed away in a cloud of smoke. You used a cage bunshin for that, while you transformed into a shuriken to get behind me. Temari stated. Yeah, now if you would kindly give up, so I won't have to hurt you. Naruto said, obviously feeling smug with himself. Not yet. Temari said, and before Naruto knew what happened, he found himself with Temari's fan in his face, and the bunshin he had threatened vanished. You aren't the only one that can make clones. Temari said from where she had appeared behind Naruto, watching him fly backwards into a wall. Ouch. Tenchi commented when he heard the smack. That's got to hurt. Wonder why he didn't sense her behind him. He wondered out loud. Just then, Ino, Sakura and Haku realized something. Sensei, how are you even following the fight? You aren't using your chakra radar. Right, Sakura asked. And you aren't meditating either. Haku joined in. Tenchi smiled sheepishly and scratched his head. I'm listening, smelling and feeling the air movements. I can't rely on my radar or meditation all my life, so I'm trying to follow with my remaining senses. Is that bad? Tenchi asked innocently. Sakura, Ino and Haku shook their heads in amusement. Kakashi and Kurenai looked at Tenchi curiously. You said you feel the air movements. Kurenai asked. Yeah, so, Tenchi replied. Can you tell what Naruto is doing now? Kakashi asked. He is standing still. His scent isn't moving at least. Tenchi replied. True enough, Naruto was standing in one place, doing seals at a fast pace. Kaden. Ryuka no, he called, and fire erupted around him and flew towards Temari. Now he is attacking. Tenchi stated simply, making the other sweat drop. Temari again waved her fan and created a powerful wind that blew out the fire Naruto was making, but when the smoke lifted, she didn't see Naruto at all. Where is he? She thought, looking around, checking behind her and on the roof. I'm here. Naruto's voice came, and a slight flicker behind Temari suddenly moved very fast, tripped Temari and pinned her down on the ground. Naruto placed his knee on Temari's spine, holding two kunai, one at each side of her neck. Don't move, or I'll kill you. Naruto growled. Temari felt compelled to gulp at the not-so-subtle killing intent. What was that? She asked. Ninpo. Fukashi no. There are different versions in different villages, that was Sensei's version. Now give up. Naruto said while increasing his killing intent. I give up. She said, and instantly Naruto removed his kunai. Winner Uzumaki Naruto. Hayate said, obviously pleased that his student, although not using his sword in this fight, had won. Naruto smiled and helped Temari up, his killing intent gone. Nice fight. You almost broke my nose with that blow of yours. Naruto commented while they walked towards the stairs. Tamari sulked, but when they were about to part, she mumbled, just loud enough for him to hear, "Congratulations." Naruto was walking up to his team, when he passed Lee's team. "Wow, that was awesome, Naruto-kun. Your flames of youth burned brightly in that fight," Lee said, his eyes two brightly burning orbs. Naruto took a step backwards, wondering why Lee wasn't being burned. "He's like that all the time," Tenten said, and Naruto nodded slowly. Their Hyuga teammate looked bored, but Tenten smiled at Naruto and held out her hand. "Hi, I'm Tenten. Nice to meet you," she said, and Naruto smiled back while shaking her hand. "Naruto. Nice to meet you too," he replied. "Tell me, how did you manage to make the Kage Bunshin, Henjan, throw the shuriken so fast? I couldn't see you doing it." Tenten wondered, and Naruto scratched his head while giving his trademark grin. "Speed, I guess," he replied. "You have to be pretty fast to pull that off. Let's have a match someday," Lee said. Naruto didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded. Surely," he said, and Lee flashed his "nice guy" pose, complete with raised thumb and flashing teeth. Tenchi, sensing his student's growing uneasiness, called out, "Naruto, come here for a minute." "Right. Sorry guys. See you later," Naruto said and walked up to his team. When he got glomped on by Ino and Sakura, both gave him a kiss on the cheek. Naruto wasn't sure if it was to congratulate him, or state that he was theirs. "Well done, Naruto-kun," Sakura said happily. "You really showed her." Ino joined in. "Good job, Naruto. Nice use of yours," Tenchi said with a smile. "Thanks." Naruto smiled back. "So, Naruto-kun, how does it feel to have the attention of so many girls?" Haku asked. "Yeah, how does it feel?" Ino and Sakura asked in sugar-sweet tones. I don't really know. Haven't thought of it. Besides, as long as I have Sakura-chan and Ino-chan, I'm happy," Naruto said, earning him 2 new kisses from his girlfriends. "Naruto, it seems I have to buy you a book," Kakashi said. "Huh, what kind of book?" Naruto asked, but Tenchi and Kurenai apparently knew. "Don't," they both said at the same time. "Huh," Naruto thought, while Sakura and Ino glared at Kakashi. Kakashi smiled unceasingly, and pushed an orange corner further down into his utility pouch. A cough brought back their attention. "If I can have everyone's, we are ready to start the second cough fight," Hayate said, and the names started rolling again. With a beep, they stopped on. Second fight: Kaakado Yoroi vs. Uchiha Sasuke. "Can the fighter scout come down here please?" "Cough," Hayate said. Just as Sasuke passed Kakashi, the silver-haired Junin leaned in and whispered in his ear. "Remember, I'll be watching. Don't use your Sharingan. That thing responds to chakra, and if it gets out of hand, I'll stop the fight," Kakashi warned. Sasuke gave no indication to have heard him. Instead, he kept walking. "Fighters ready?" Hayate asked, stifling a cough. Both Sasuke and Yoroi nodded. "Begin," Hayate said while jumping slightly away. Neither of the fighters did move for a while, but suddenly Sasuke whipped out 2 shuriken and threw them at Yoroi, who responded by dodging to the left and rushing towards Sasuke. Sasuke tried to throw a punch, but Yoroi blocked it while grabbing Sasuke's arm. An amused snort came from Yoroi, and a blue glow surrounded his hand, and where he held Sasuke's arm. "What? My chakra," Sasuke thought. He quickly tried to hit Yoroi again, but his other hand was blocked and grabbed as well. "Shit, I have to do something," Sasuke thought while pulling his feet up and kicking Yoroi's knees, making said boy fall to the floor with a grunt. Acting quickly, Sasuke locked Yoroi in a body lock, threatening to break his arm. But Yoroi just smiled and the same blue glow surrounded his hand again, which he lay on Sasuke's head. Sasuke gasped and his body became limp. "Sasuke is in trouble," Tenchi commented. Sasuke was unable to maintain the body lock and Yoroi stood up with a smirk on his face, keeping his hand on Sasuke. Sasuke tried to grab Yoroi's hand, but his arm just fell limp. You're my chakra, Sasuke stammered forth. Correct. I can suck your chakra right out of you. Yoroi replied. I have to do something, Sasuke thought before he remembered Lee. That's it. Sasuke almost cheered in his head. Using all his willpower, Sasuke managed to punch Yoroi in the face, making him let go. Sasuke then disappeared and reappeared underneath Yoroi, kicking him into the air. Vanishing again, Sasuke appeared underneath Yoroi, flying just like him. That's my Konoha shadow dance. Lee said. When did Sasuke learn that? Tenchi asked. From here on it's all original. Sasuke said, but then a burning pain in his neck stopped him. Seals looking like flames spread from his neck to cover half of his body. What the? Kakashi, it's happening. Tenchi said. Kakashi looked at him before turning back to Sasuke, who was gritting his teeth from the pain. Naruto thought Sasuke was in pain from having his chakra sucked out, so he yelled. Come on Sasuke. Don't give in. That had the effect that Sasuke was annoyed at the blonde for being so loud, and annoyed at himself. I won't let this thing win. Sasuke thought and the seals moved back into his neck. He shook his head before swinging around, trying to kick Yoroi in the chest. Yoroi blocked with a smirk. Too slow, he said, but was rewarded with a fist to his face. Another fist to the stomach sent him flying towards the ground. No, you aren't fast enough. Kakashi said. Just before Yoroi hit the ground, Sasuke did a flip and used the momentum to drive his leg into Yoroi's stomach. Shishi. Lion combo, Sasuke yelled. Yoroi let out a pained yell before falling into a heap, and lying completely still. Sasuke tumbled to the ground and ended up on his stomach, breathing hard. Hayate walked over to Yoroi and confirmed the knockout. Winner Uchiha Hayate said, you better seal that thing up. Tenchi said to Kakashi, who puffed away. He told the medics that were about to help Sasuke that he would do something before they could have him. Kakashi grabbed Sasuke and puffed away again. What was that about? Naruto asked Tenchi. Don't worry about it. Just pay attention and tell me who the next fight is between. Tenchi replied. The names flashed again before stopping. The two fighters made their way to the arena and stood opposite each other. The third fight between Haruno Sakura and Inuzuka Kiba. Begin. Hayate called. Sakura and Kiba stared at each other, Sakura with a calculating look, while Kiba just looked smug. We're lucky, Akamaru, we got to fight Pinky. Kiba bragged, and Akamaru gave a bark in agreement. Tenchi didn't like that though. Kurenai, is Kiba really that stupid, or did he hit his head during the second exam? Tenchi asked. I don't know. I'm thinking the same thing actually. Kurenai replied. Well, he is in for a beating now. Rin commented while leaning against the railings. Naruto, Haku and Ino were both fuming, and wanted to jump down there and, in Naruto's case, strangle Kiba. In Haku's case, she wanted to use her needles to show Kiba a little pain, and in Ino's case, show Kiba that Kunai and a pissed Kunoichi aren't good if you want to have children someday. In short, if Kiba could read minds, he would have known not to mess with Sakura's friends. Sakura looked at her teammates and smiled before turning back to Kiba. Save it, dog breath, and fight me. Sakura said. Kiba's eyes flashed with anger and he charged. Fine, have it your way. He yelled and tried to hit Sakura in the gut with his elbow. Keyword being tried. Sakura easily caught the elbow and she was about to hit a pressure point in Kiba's neck when Akamaru jumped and almost bit her hand. Sakura jumped back while releasing Kiba. Thanks, Akamaru, Kiba said while getting up from the floor where Sakura had dropped him. It looks like Pinky has some skills. Better get this over with then. Kiba said and searched through his utility pouch for something. He produced 2 small, round pills. He gave one to Akamaru, and took the other himself. What did he do now? Tenchi asked. Solid or pills? Rin and Haku replied in unison. They looked curiously at each other before turning back to the fight. Akamaru's fur had changed from white to red and the little puppy roared like a lion. Did he summon something? Tenchi asked, making the other's sweat drop. Akamaru jumped, with surprising speed, on top of Kiba, who crouched down and formed some seals. Gijyu Ninpu. Jyujin Bunshin. Beast Mimicry Ninja Technique. Half-beast clone Kiba called, and both he and Akamaru were enveloped in a cloud of smoke. Once the cloud lifted, instead of one Kiba and Akamaru, there stood two Kibas, one on top of the other. Both looked more feral than before. Let's go, Akamaru, the one on the bottom said. The one on top, Akamaru, growled, and they sped towards Sakura. She looked curious at what was coming. Take this, Pinky. Gatsuga. Double Fang Destroyer, Kiba called, and both he and the transformed Akamaru turned to twin gray tornadoes. Horizontal tornadoes that were spinning towards Sakura. The ground under the tornadoes was shredded to pieces. Sakura stood completely still as they came closer, observing. At the last minute, she jumped backwards and upwards and landed on the statue. Kiba and Akamaru stopped spinning, looked up at her and grinned. Gatsuga! Kiba yelled again, and he and Akamaru flew towards Sakura, planning to turn Sakura into shreds. But instead of dodging as seemed natural, Sakura smiled while forming seals. I'll show you what Naruto taught me. Kaden. Karyu Enden, Sakura called and shot a thin ray of white-hot fire towards the two tornadoes, which had no chance of dodging. The fire hit both at the same time and produced a massive smoke cloud, accompanied by pained yells and yelps. Ouch! Naruto commented. Burnt? Dog anyone? Tenchi asked. The smoke cleared slowly to reveal a burnt Kiba and a now normal Akamaru. Kiba had lost his coat, his shirt, parts of his pants were burned away, and his hair looked very singed. Akamaru had some bald spots. Smoke was rising from them both. They weren't moving. She held back. Tenchi said suddenly. How do you know? Naruto asked. They are still alive. Rin answered. And she was right. Everyone could see both Kiba and Akamaru breathing, but neither were conscious. Winner. Cough, Haruno Hayate said, and Sakura cheered before looking at Kiba. The medics were taking care of him and she knew he wouldn't die, so she allowed herself to be happy. Running up the stairs, she ran to Naruto and hugged him. He smiled and kissed her before grinning happily. Congratulations, Sakura-chan. Nice job, Naruto said. Yeah, good fight, Sakura. Ino said. She was happy for her friend, but also had a weird sense of being left out and slight sadness. Tenchi seemed to notice this. He smiled at Sakura, not showing anything of the confusion he felt for Ino. Congratulations, Haku said cheerfully. She didn't notice Ino's feelings, but she did notice something was bothering Tenchi. You've grown so much, Rin said as she almost crushed Sakura, who was turning an unhealthy shade of purple. Rin, I think you are choking your daughter. Kakashi commented. Rin gasped and released Sakura. Sorry, she said, blushing brightly. Sakura-san fought well. Kiba did as well, but she was stronger. Kurenai said, mostly to herself. Is Kiba-kun going to be okay? Hinata asked hesitantly. He's strong, Shino said, but didn't elaborate. He'll be alright. He was burned a bit badly, but nothing that the medics can't fix. Rin replied, and both Hinata and Kurenai visibly relaxed. Tenchi took the opportunity to lead Ino slightly away and turned to her with a serious look on his face. What is Ino? Tenchi asked concernedly. Ino looked like she was about to deny whatever it was, but thought better of it. She looked down on the ground, not wanting to meet what would have been Tenchi's gaze. I don't know. I just feel left out. Sakura and Naruto have the Kaden element in common, while I don't have any element in common with them. They can trade with each other, but I can't. I know both Naruto and Sakura care for me a lot, and Naruto loves me just the same as Sakura, but I can't help it. Ino said, sounding more sad for each word. Tenchi crouched down in front of her and smiled. Oh, so that is what's been bothering you lately. Come here, Tenchi said and gave Ino a hug. After he released her, he sat down in front of her and motioned for her to do the same. She did, although a bit hesitantly. Listen, it is true that Naruto and Sakura have more in common than you and Naruto. At least when it comes to being a ninja. But you and Naruto have something in common that Naruto and Sakura don't have. Tenchi said with a smile. Ino was confused though. Huh, what? She asked. Kage Bunshin for one. Sakura can't do that, but you and Naruto can. Also, both you and Naruto have mastered some of my skills that Sakura couldn't. Remember? Tenchi asked and Ino smiled brightly. Oh yeah, guess I forgot about that. She said happily. Tenchi smiled at her happiness. Also, you and Naruto have more in common than you think. Both of you always try to look at the positive side, more so than Sakura. Both of you want to become stronger to protect your precious people and have their acknowledgement. Tenchi said but was interrupted. But Sakura also wants that. Ino objected. No, she wants to become stronger so she doesn't slow you down. She doesn't want to look at your backs anymore. That, and she wants to protect you, of course. Tenchi said with a smile. But most importantly, you and Naruto have a spirit inside you that Sakura doesn't. He said, confusing Ino. You mean like Kyuubi? Ino asked. Tenchi chuckled and shook his head. No, but perhaps that was a bad choice of words. No, what I mean is that you both never give up, and always try your best. Remember when Sakura was teased? She didn't try to do anything about it, thinking it was useless, and she even believed what the others said about her. But if it were you that had been teased, I know that you wouldn't have taken it sitting down. You would have stood up against them, and done something about it. And I know Naruto did just that when he was teased. Tenchi explained. But Sakura isn't like that anymore. Ino pointed out. True, because of you she isn't. Because of you she learned confidence and grew a backbone. But unlike you and Naruto, she didn't always have that. Confidence doesn't come naturally for her, but it does for you and Naruto. Not that Sakura has any problems with her confidence now, but sometimes I notice she almost has to force herself to be confident. You never have to. That, Ino, is something you and Naruto have in common that he and Sakura never will have. Remember that, Tenchi said, and Ino broke into a huge grin. Thank you. That meant a lot to me, she said, and Tenchi laughed. No problem, and who knows? Perhaps there are some aspects of ninja life that you and Naruto have talent for, but Sakura doesn't, he replied. Like what? Ino asked, and Tenchi thought for a moment. Stealth and assassination perhaps, Tenchi said, and Ino looked at him like he was crazy. Apparently, he sensed it. Yeah, I know, Tenchi said while shaking his head. The two loudest people on the team. But both you and Naruto soak up most of mine, including the ones I made for stealth and assassination. When you have to, both you and Naruto can hide very well. Sakura isn't that good in that aspect. Oh, there you have another similarity. You and Naruto both have the ability to perform much better than anyone assumes when you have to. It's like me when I am like I am now, and when I am in the weapon mode. You two get much more sharpened by the situation than sometimes Sakura does. That is connected to the confidence we talked about though. Tenchi said, and Ino nodded. Okay, sensei, Ino asked after a few moments of thought. Yes, Tenchi replied. Was it wrong of me to feel jealous when I heard Sakura say that she had learned from Naruto? Ino asked, and Tenchi sighed. Yes and no. No, as in it is understandable. Yes, as in you should know that Naruto doesn't make a difference between you and Sakura. If you had an affinity with Kaden, then Naruto would have taught you that too. Also, Naruto has taught you something, hasn't he? AI made that you had some trouble with. Tenchi asked, and Ino nodded. Yeah, Hifurashu no. Sun Flash, I couldn't get the timing right, and Naruto showed me how to do it. Ino replied. That is one example of how he is going to be there for you in the future. Like he will be for Sakura. Now, I think we should get back to the others, don't you? Tenchi asked and Ino's eyes widened. Oh crap. The exam, she said while jumping to her feet. Tenchi chuckled. Don't worry. Your name wasn't called, he said while forming a hand seal. Kai, he said, and a slight glimmer around them disappeared. Genjutsu to give us some privacy. Tenchi said, answering Ino's questioning look. Which only served to make her more confused. How did you know I was wondering? Ino asked. I have my ways. Tenchi replied as they reached the others. They were just in time to see the medics carry one of the sound nins out. He looked like he had his arms blown up from the inside. Shino won then? Tenchi asked. Yeah, without much effort. Where were you two? Rin asked curiously. Oh, I was just talking to Ino about something. Teacher-student thing, Tenchi said with a shrug. Oh, what teacher-student thing? Sakura asked slyly, looking at Ino, who grinned back. Nothing to worry about, forehead. Ino replied. What did you say, Ino pig? Sakura shot back. And I thought they were over that. Tenchi sighed. Especially with what we saw in the wave. Rin said, making both girls blush a deep red. Naruto was none the wiser. The names flashed again and stopped on. Can Akamichi Chojiko and Dosu Kinutaka come down? Hayate asked. Choji and Dosu stood in front of each other, glaring at each other. How can this guy even see? Choji thought, referring to the fact that Dosu had most of his head wrapped in bandages, only letting his right eye show. Fat ass will fall easily. Dosu thought. Fifth fight, Akamichi Choji vs. Dosu Kinuta. Begin. Hayate said and jumped away. You can do it, Shikamaru yelled. If you win, I'll treat you to an all-you-can-eat barbecue. Asuma yelled. Huh, how do you know Choji? Kakashi asked. I often play with Shikamaru, and Choji watches. Sometimes I treat him to food, most often as payment for losing against Shikamaru. But I don't mind much. Choji is really amusing sometimes. Asuma said, and Kakashi, Kurenai and Rin rolled their eyes at him. Tenchi would have done too, but couldn't, for obvious reasons. Come on. I'll end this quickly, Mr. Fatty. Dosu said, and flames appeared in Choji's eyes. Are you talking to me, you bandaged imp? I'll beat you into a pulp. Baika no. Double weight, Choji yelled and turned into a human-sized meatball. With puffs of chakra smoke, he retracted his limbs into his now round body. He uses sound waves to attack. I have to hide my ears. Choji thought. Meat tank. Choji yelled and began to roll. His roll sped up and he sped towards Dosu, who stood by impassively. I couldn't find the Japanese name for Choji's. Sorry. Hooray for big bone people. Choji yelled just before he hit Dosu, who jumped away just before Choji hit him. Resulting in Choji smashing into the wall Dosu stood in front of. Dosu was about to hit Choji, when he managed to pull himself out of the wall. Choji rolled towards Dosu again, who swung his fist and struck Choji. Ah! Choji yelled and lost control of his rolling and once again smashed into a wall. You may have hidden your ears, but the human body is made of more than 70% water and water carries sound. Basically your whole body is a big ear. Dosu said and pulled back his sleeve to reveal a metal device with several holes on his arm. What happened? Tenchi asked. That sound guy's arm device amplifies sound. It acts as a speaker. He used it to defeat Lee in the forest. Shikamaru said, and Rin looked at Choji's still form. Destroyed hearing, balance, sight would become obstructed, and even internal damage could be done if used correctly. Rin said. That explains the ringing I have in my ears now. You heard it as well, right, sensei? Naruto asked and Tenchi nodded. Yeah, but it seems that it didn't affect Choji very much. Tenchi replied, and everyone saw that Choji began to pull himself out of the wall. Ouch, that hurt, Choji said before jumping in the air, spinning again. What the hell is he doing? I can easily dodge that. Dosu said and dodged the falling ball, which vanished when it hit the floor. What? Dosu yelled and just managed to dodge the real Choji walling from above. Bunshin. Nice Choji, Shikamaru said. Damn, that was close. But it's over. Dosu yelled, jumped on top of Choji and punched him. His whole arm sunk deep into Choji's fat. This is it, Dosu said and struck his metal device. The onlookers could practically see the sound waves vibrate in Choji's body. Both Tenchi and Naruto threw their hands up and covered their ears. Choji screamed before becoming silent and reverting back to his normal appearance. Hayate walked over to him and confirmed that he was out. Winner Dosu Kinuta, Hayate said, and Dosu walked up to his remaining teammate, while the medics carried a drooling Choji out. Tenchi and Naruto caught what I mumbled and snickered. What did he say? Shikamaru asked. He said, I want barbecue, Tenchi replied. Asuma sweat dropped. Troublesome, Shikamaru said before walking down to face the last sound nin. Is everything troublesome for him? Haku asked. Sakura, Ino and Naruto nodded at the same time. Eternal rival, you must ignite Shikamaru-kun's flames of youth. Guy practically yelled. Kakashi looked towards the man proclaimed to be the beautiful green beast of Konoha. Sorry, Guy, but did you say something? Kakashi asked, making Guy scream and hold his head while crying. That hip attitude again. It's cool and pisses me off. Guy screamed. Sensei, who's he? Naruto asked. Maida Guy. As you can see, he has no fashion sense. Tenchi said, referring to the green spandex both Guy and his little clone Lee wore, as well as the orange leg warmers, bowl cut and extremely large and bushy eyebrows. Is clinically insane, always rambling about the flames of youth, and gives himself insane tasks to complete, and equal insane punishments for failing. Rin joined in. Guy and Lee looked like they had a couple of 2-ton boulders on their shoulders. And is not the best taijutsu user in Konoha. Tenchi finished, and instantly the imaginary boulders vanished and were replaced by a display of manliness from both Guy and Lee. Read. Good Guy pose, flashing teeth, wiggly eyebrows before both broke and hugged each other while crying, somehow creating a background of a sunset with waves crashing on the shore. While hugging, they yelled, Lee, Guy Sensei, Lee, Guy Sensei, shut up. Rin, Tenten, Naruto, Sakura and Ino yelled at the same time. Sakura turned from the two startled green-clad ninjas to look at Tenchi. Sensei, how did they make that sunset? She asked. Don't ask, was the simple reply. Sixth fight ka. Nara Shikamaru Kintsuchi. Begin. Hayate ordered. Why must I fight a girl? How troublesome, Shikamaru thought before forming his signature seal. Can't you do anything else? Using the same over and over again like an idiot. Kin said. Shut up. Cage main no. Shadow imitation, Shikamaru said and his shadow darkened and extended towards Kin. You won't get me with that. Kin said and threw 2 needles towards Shikamaru, both with bells attached. Bells? Shikamaru thought as he dodged. She plans to throw 1 needle with a bell on, and 1 without. I dodge based on the sound and she hits me with the other. You won't get me with that elementary trick. Next you'll throw 1 with a bell and 1 without. Right? Shikamaru asked, but instead of a verbal answer, he heard the bells again. What? He said and half turned before the world suddenly turned upside down. He noticed strings attached to the bells, though. You are mine. I'll end this quickly now. Kin said and Shikamaru stared as the single Kin multiplied. You don't even know who the real me is. The king said, creating an eerie sound effect. The next thing Shikamaru knew, he had 2 needles sticking out of his arms. He pulled them out with a grunt. Next I'll throw 4. Then 8. Soon you'll look more like a hedgehog than a pineapple. Kin said, obviously enjoying this. You wench. You said you'd end this soon. Shikamaru said and Kin grinned. I see. You are in so much pain you want this to end as soon as possible. Well, too bad. Kin said and threw 4 needles, each hitting home. I have to do something. This'll drain most of my chakra though. Shikamaru thought as he did seals, swiped some of his blood onto his hand and placed the hand on the ground. No. Shikamaru called in a puff of smoke later, and a cat as large as he stood in front of him. More precisely, an overgrown black house cat. Get her, Shikamaru said. The cat looked at him before sitting down and licking its paw. The audience sweat dropped. Kakashi looked at Tenshi, who looked like he was on the verge of rolling on the floor while laughing. Natural summon indeed. They do fit together, Tenshi said. Your summon doesn't even listen to you. Perhaps I should make a needle cushion cat. Kin said and threw some needles towards the cat, who dodged, causing the needles to almost pierce Shikamaru. The cat hissed at Kin before turning to Shikamaru and, nodding. Shikamaru kneeled down as the cat turned and charged. To Shikamaru it looked like it was charging one of the numerous Kins, while the others saw the cat attack Kin, who jumped to the side. The cat turned and charged Kin again. This time she dodged backwards, but before she could do anything else, she froze. Cage main success, Shikamaru said. How? Kin asked while Shikamaru stood up. I let my shadow follow my summon, who distracted you long enough for me to capture you. Now it's my turn, Shikamaru said and took out 2 shuriken. Kin's body moved against her will and took out 2 shuriken as well. Now we are going to stab each other to see who can last longer, Shikamaru said and threw one of the shurikens, closely followed by the other. Stop this, Kin said, but her body perfectly mirrored Shikamaru's. The 2 shuriken flew towards the 2 genin. The cat was once again sitting and licking its paw. Just before the first shuriken hit, Shikamaru bent backwards. Hey, he was just bluffing, Kin thought, but she stopped her thought process when her head hit the wall behind her. Got her. A ninja should always be aware of the surroundings. My summon lured you close enough to the wall. Guess I won't need this then, Shikamaru said and let go of the thin wire that the last shuriken he threw was attached to. Winner. Nara Shikamaru, Hayate called. How troublesome, Shikamaru thought as he walked back up the stairs. A purr reminded him of the cat he summoned. He turned to see it right behind him. Thanks for the help, he said and scratched the cat's ear. It purred before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Good job, Shikamaru, Kakashi said when Shikamaru reached him. How troublesome, Shikamaru sighed before sitting down and leaning against the wall. I'm guessing you told him who had the summoning contract for cats, Kakashi said and Tenshi nodded. Yeah, although it seems Shikamaru hasn't met the boss yet, since the cat didn't listen to him, Tenshi said and Shikamaru sighed. I don't have enough chakra, he said before closing his eyes and pretending to be asleep. Tenshi turned to Ino, and was about to say something when Hayate coughed and announced the next fight. 7th fight. Sabaku no Gara vs. Rock Lee. Yo, Kin Ryu Chikara here. 14 chaps finished. Another cliffhanger. Mohaha. Okay, I have gotten a few reviews now, saying, but Naruto is a win type. And those reviewers are right, if you are talking about the manga. I came up with my idea about having an elemental affinity before the manga did, and as I said in the author note at the beginning of this chapter, I won't be changing Naruto's affinity. I'm sorry that this took so long to write, and the next will probably also take some time, since I'm starting school again tomorrow. But I won't stop writing, so no need to worry. The translation page I use for my original, www. Friedict Ondict Jap. HTML, minus the spaces. Tenshi is Kaden, Sweden while Rin is Doden, Futon. List. Jutsus that Team 7 now knows, not counting the basics. Naruto. Preferred element. Kaden, Raiden. Nose. Rasengan, Spiral Ball. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kage Shuriken no Jutsu. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Kaden. Hausenka no Jutsu. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu, Dragonfire Technique. Doden. Doryuaheki. Raiden. Dageki Teseki no Jutsu, Shock Fingers. Raiden. Raikyu no Jutsu, Lightning Ball. Kuchio's no Jutsu, Frogs and Foxes. Mikazuki no Mai, Dance of the Crescent Moon. Tsubaki no Mai, Dance of the Camellia. Ninpu. Fukashi no Jutsu, Ninja Arts, Invisibility Technique. Sakura. Preferred Element. Kaden Doden. Nose. Kage Shuriken no Jutsu. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Kaden. Hausenka no Jutsu, Phoenix Fire Technique. Kaden. Karyu Enden, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. Doden. Doryuaheki. Doden. Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu, Suicidal Beheading Technique. Kuchio's no Jutsu, Wolves and Slugs. Ino. Preferred Element. Futon, Sweden. Nose. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kage Shuriken no Jutsu. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Doden. Doryuaheki. Futon. Te Tama, Air Bullet. Sujinheki, Water Barrier. Shintenshin no Jutsu. Shinranshin no Jutsu. Shinhaisa Suru no Jutsu, Mind Close Down. Kuchio's no Jutsu, Wolves. This was just the beginning, the real secret will unfold in the next episode. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to see what happens next. See you again in the next journey of Uzumaki Empire 2.0.